So I used to really appreciate George Carlin as a comic because I remember at the start of one of his comedy specials, he came out and the start of his show was within the first 2 minutes of the show, he got his first round of applause and he comes out and he's like, I've been out here all this time and I haven't been complaining about anything. And I realized it was 20 some odd years ago that I realized our society used to have philosophers and scholars, and now we have comedians. I find it very, very troubling that the only people really talking about the things that need to change are the damn comedians or late night talk show hosts. I just can't wrap my head around our political system. I don't have the video. I'm still in the process of there we go. That makes a lot more sense. I'm still in the process of rebuilding all of my streams. For those of you that weren't around for this last week's fucking wonderful fiasco, my Genesis, which was my streaming box, shit the bed. And I had to make a decision kind of like in a hurry because I worked on it for 14 straight hours. Now I am not a computer guru by any means, but if I can't get a computer running in about 14 hours, the computer's probably dead. So what I did was I made a decision, talked to my wife, and I said, I can't stream from the machine I have. The machine, the one good machine I had can't be used as a streamer box. So I said, if I don't buy another machine, I'm probably going to quit streaming, because if it takes me 3 months to be able to find a person and find the parts to source the new motherboard, I'm not going to be able to stream it. I'm going to lose all the momentum. And if I'm starting over after no momentum for 3 months, probably not going to do it again, coupled with my health and the other things I got going on. So I bought a machine. It got here. I put the capture card in it, started getting going. I got the damn Genesis fixed because Origin had a custom BIOS on it, and just a comedy of errors. Windows tried to push a patch. Somehow my Windows security got reset, so it failed on the patch, but it was also failing all the hardware. So when Origin gave me the BIOS file to unlock my BIOS and put in, my BIOS was still from 2026. So I've still got some hardware tuning to do. I got to tweak the overclocking, tweak the RAM, tweak the fans. And as you all know, that shit takes forever. Like, it takes forever to do, because you got to do one thing at a time. But I know it runs because I gamed on it a little bit last night, and then I'll try to make a video when I can. But I mention that because we don't have enough people talking. We have everybody that wants to push their narrative. Yeah, I apologize for being late. You guys know that I hate being late. But the big problem was I had to get a cardiovascular ultrasound this morning. I have a health problem that has elevated itself from a minor annoyance to all hands on deck. All the specialists are lined up. I have chest pain. My blood pressure is about 165 over about 109. So I'm flagged as a cardiac risk. So I'm on some new meds, hopefully, because if I die, I don't know who's going to be the next, let's talk about shit. Bits. Like, what I think is funny is everybody makes the joke every time I go to Disney, either the world goes to shit or Stephen Sharif's life goes to shit and he's getting sued again. And the funny part is there's still a pack of sycophants, like, who worship him. That's the problem with charisma. You have a person who rolled a 6d6 for charisma out there fleecing people out of money, But for morals, they didn't even pick a character alignment. So we've got politicians that are voting down things. Like, if you didn't see this, one of the states, I think it might have been Colorado, a while ago, they voted down making sex crimes against children a felony. This ties into the Epstein thing that we had going on, where people said we can't prosecute all of the people that are named in the Epstein files, because if we do, society will fall apart. And as I've said from the very beginning, if we have to protect people who victimize children in order to keep society from falling apart, then you know what time it is? It's time for society to fall apart. And what I struggle with is, like, people don't want to tell you what they stand for. The yellow column is what I stand for. The yellow column is my column. I wrote the column. Trying to explain to people, like, Donald Trump is doing all these great things for the economy. Donald Trump hasn't done fuck all to help the economy. And all the people that keep turning around and saying Donald Trump is great at the economy, Donald Trump is great for his friends and family, his cronies, his supporters. And if you're one of these people that still has the knee pads on and you've still got a little dribble out of the corner of your mouth because you keep saying how great Donald Trump is gas cheaper now than it was the day before he took office? The answer is no, it is not. But one of his major campaign promises was, drill baby drill, we're going to lower the price of gas. Except, as I said during the campaign, drill baby drill is stupid. What we need is refining capacity of domestically drilled oil. We don't have that. We're selling 1 million barrels of crude oil a day. So how's that helping the American? If we turned around and we said something like, we're going to nationalize the oil industry like other countries have, because oil is a strategic commodity, and we're going to make sure that every American benefits from the oil underneath America, not just the oil companies. I would say, holy shit, there we go. Because if you think about it, you could have the United States drill, transport, refine, distribute, and sell gasoline. And then all that profit, because there would be profit, could be used to fund all these other things we need. I keep seeing Bernie Sanders saying but that would be communism, which is evil. No, that wouldn't be communism. You see, that's the problem. That wouldn't be communism. Because what you would be doing is you would be doing a socialist, communist practice inside of a capitalistic enterprise. For some things, I think the individual should be rewarded for their hard work. You're a rancher. You struggle every year because if you watch the TV show Yellowstone, they really do break down a really interesting facet about ranches and farms. You have X number of years where you lose money, X number of years where you make money, X number of years where you break even, and then it's in that 10th year that you get ahead. Talking to the farmers around here, a lot of the farmers one guy just sold, like, this is what pisses me off, because people can't think long term. One farmer, he sold, I want to say, about 2,000 acres to put in a road and 4 subdivisions. He made millions of dollars. Number one, that much acreage is millions of gallons of water when it rains. Millions of gallons. If I remember my math correctly, 1 acre of farmland absorbs 40,000 gallons of water during a rainstorm. When you replace all that with pavement, I wonder why we have flooding everywhere. Number two, the cost of groceries is going up and up and up. What happens when we start cutting out 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 acres of corn land? Price of corn is going to go up. Price of soy is going to go up because they do soy in the off year to share crop or crop rotation. Our government is run too much like a criminal enterprise. It's like watching a mafia movie. Unfortunately, that is true. I'll get to this Truth Social in one moment. Where is it? Browser. That's interesting. Why are we not cooperating, thing? There. He made agreeing to complete the Keystone XL pipeline part of the Canadian deal. If you know anything about the pipeline, we've already built our segment of the pipeline. Biden is the one who killed it, not us. The Keystone pipeline needed to be killed because, like all things, number one, it wasn't properly done, so it was leaking, and number two, it was running through Native American reservations, which legally we cannot do. But yeah, Donald Trump makes it part of the Canadian deal, and Canada's already got their part done. Tyson Food apparently closed down another beef processing facility due to low head count coming in. It wasn't enough to justify keeping the facility open. So we're going to talk about that right off the bat. You cannot build an economy that relies on immigrant cheap labor for years and years and years and years and years, and then all of a sudden get froggy and get a hair up your ass and say, now we're going to really crack down on immigrant labor. Number one, I don't believe and agree that it is right to keep people in a class of wage slavery. If there are people doing a job under the table or for minimum wage, that's backbreaking work, because the answer is their life in poverty here in America is better than their life as middle class in their country. Well, then what we need to do is we need to stop immigration, because somehow we've gotten too far ahead of the rest of the world and we have a disproportionate split. At the same time, there are a number of Americans who, I don't give a shit if this offends any of them, they deserve their lot in life because they're fucking stupid. Now, I'm not talking about people that were failed by the American public school system. As you know, on my show, I talk about all the time, the keystone, the cornerstone of fixing American society is fixing American education. But I'm talking about people that I know that went to private education. I know people that went to private high school. $16,000 was the cost of the tuition over the 4 years. And they turned out to be dumb as fuck. We can't turn around and blame public schools for why everybody's dumb if not everybody went to public school. Now, I know people that are planning on homeschooling their kids. I've told them, I don't think you're qualified to homeschool your kids. And they said, why? I said, because you're dumb as fuck. Honest to God, you're dumb as fuck. You shouldn't be homeschooling your kids. They're going to homeschool their kids. Well, now we're going to have the cycle repeat itself. You're dumb as fuck. You didn't graduate high school, which means you don't have a high school education, which means you're now going to have to learn the material ahead of your children learning the material so that you can get your kids a quality education. One of my friends was homeschooling her kids. I asked her kids some age-appropriate questions for social studies. The kids got every single one wrong. 8th grader, 7th grader, 5th grader, 3rd grader. Ask them all age-appropriate questions for social studies. The kids don't know them. How can you say you're successfully homeschooling your children if you're failing in social studies to teach them the things? Because remember, social studies is all that other stuff. If it's not math and it's not English and it's not science, it's either humanities, art, music, drama, or it's social studies. Philosophy, social studies, ethics and morals, philosophy, or social studies, religious studies, technically social studies. Simply having knowledge within a field does not automatically mean you'll be a good teacher. Yes, this is a great talking point. One of the greatest organizations in the world for training is the military. And the reason why the military is one of the greatest organizations in the world for training, notice I didn't say education, I said training, is because you go into the military and you go to a formal tech school, technical training, AIT, MOS school. Then when you get to your base, you spend your time being taught how to do your job by the people who outrank you. Lower enlisted are usually taught by, lower, I'll use the Air Force. Lower airmen are usually taught by a senior airman and a staff sergeant. Senior airmen and staff sergeants are taught by tech sergeants. Tech sergeants are taught by master sergeants. And by the time you get to a master sergeant, you're done training in your job field. And now your training goes on to all the other things that go on in the military: paperwork, administration, manpower, how to organize, how to train, how to equip as you approach making a chief. The problem is I've had a lot of people who are really, 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 really good technicians who can't teach for shit. And that's why some people go to train the trainer. They become trainers. I had a guy, he was a fucking wrench turner. He was, by God, one of the best wrench turners I had ever seen. He didn't want to get promoted because he didn't want to start training. I said, fuck that, get your goddamn promotion, get your money, and we're just not gonna have you train people. He's like, well, why aren't you gonna have me train people? Because you don't want to be a trainer and you suck at training. I've watched when we tried to force you. Go ahead and make E6. I'm gonna put you over in the other building. You're gonna turn wrenches all day. Because I don't want to lose this guy to the civilian world. He likes being a wrench turner. Military also chooses what jobs you can be trained for as well. They don't let you train for anything you want. Correct. In the military, they don't live by the motto of you can be anything you want to put your mind to. The military doesn't have time for that bullshit. So what the military has done is your entire process, you can retake your ASVAB, but the reality of the situation is most people don't. Yeah, what they need. Needs of the military. Many of my assignments that I got over the years were, I don't really want to do this job, but needs of the military. When I made captain, they said, do you want to go to officer training school and be a flight commander? I said, no, not particularly. And they said, well, that's what we think we need you to do. I said, needs of the Air Force. Got a big old smile on everybody's face. They're like, you're not even going to argue? I said, there's no point in arguing. You asked, I said no, but I said needs of the Air Force. I'm a team player. If you want me to go push flights at OTS for 3 years, that's what the fuck I'll do. Because at the end of the day, I embraced the idea of the military. I was a 21R weapons system. I'm not a person. I'm an asset. You want me to go to the Air Force Academy and teach philosophy and ethics and morals? I'll do that. You want me to go to OTS and push flights? I'll do that. I think a lot of people have this piss poor mentality where they think I can be anything I want to. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't be anything you want to. The only way I'd be okay with free college is if it's run like the military. Only a certain number of people can be trained for a job type, and you have to pre-qualify for what position you want to be trained in. Here's my response to that. I'm adamantly against that entire idea. 93% of jobs in the American workforce do not require a college degree. They do not require a college degree. So why are we jerking everybody off, right? And why do we have for-profit colleges? And by the way, guys, the title of the show today, if you have a topic, I am more than happy to why the hell am I in the once human category? Let's fix that. If you guys have a topic, I'll give opinions on it. But is on it. I don't want to send more people to college. I want to send more people to trade school. I want people going to trade school. And the reason why I want people going to trade school is that you can't get people for the work you need right now. I also want to send, I do want to take a portion of people who are doing something that is going to be good for the economy and send them to school, right? My big problem right now is my personal problem. I told you at the beginning of the show, I'm having chest pain. I have a blood pressure cuff. I wear a pulse monitor. I can do an EKG off of this watch. It'll alert people, and it'll say, hey, go to the hospital. The two things that we have right now are in contrast to each other. I'm in such dire need of diagnostic testing that within 24 hours of my doctor's appointment, I had my cardiovascular ultrasound this morning. But I can't see the cardiologist until October 1st. What do we need then? What does that statement tell you? We need more cardiologists. If you have people waiting 6 weeks to see a cardiologist, your heart doesn't have 6 weeks. We need more cardiologists. But we don't have enough qualified American candidates. Like, I'm not even joking. This is gonna piss some of you off, and that's okay, because the way we fix it is by talking about it. I'm white. Clearly, I'm Irish, I'm white. My daughter is part Mexican because, my wife is Mexican. My nephews, when they tried to get money for college, right? They could not get money for college because they were Irish Polish. My male nephews could not, nothing showed up after they filed their FAFSA form. Literally, they put in their FAFSA form and nothing. They tried, all of them, so there's 4 boys over the 7 or 8 years they were in college, going to college, because they're all close in age. I think it was 9 years actually, but they never got a single dollar in money. My daughter didn't listen to me and go to the financial aid office in May to sign up for her fall classes. She went 2.5 weeks before classes started, walked in, filed her FAFSA, 7 things populated. She literally got a grant because she is the female child of a veteran and she's Mexican. That was it. That was all there's a pot of fucking money that literally she checked all the boxes, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, the school is fucking yanking her chain, right? Nope. I saw the money drop into her account. She was able to buy her books already. At the end of September, she'll be able to pay me back the $981 that I had to put down for her deposit for her to unlock her registration. There's something wrong with this in America. My daughter is an American. What the fuck does it matter if she's a daughter, not a son, or if she's of Hispanic descent? She's an American. My daughter doesn't speak any Spanish. How the fuck does she just get $7,900 in a grant? Boom, here you go. Let's run through these. I wanted to ask about the current state of the bond market. The current state of the bond market is strong. Right now, the interest rates are still up. The U.S. government needs to keep refinancing all of this debt. this debt that it takes. The bond market for the consumer is strong. Bonds are generally a great investment because they're ultra safe, and right now they're averaging a little bit better than the other ultra safe options. One particular reason why I don't like bonds is because bonds are usually like a really long term comparatively, so they don't keep trend with they don't fluctuate in real time with the market. They really get their big boost when there's big chunks of government debt that has to be financed. With that said, I haven't looked at bonds lately because CDs have still been running really high. CDs have now dipped under 3.5%. So I will be looking at bonds in the next go around, because if I can get better than 3%, great. I have a block of money that just grows for the next house. If I can grow that 3.5% on a CD or 4% on a bond, I'll do the bonds. I don't think we're gonna get back to 4.5, 4 3/4 CDs for a while, because our economy is fucking collapsing. Americans can't afford to put food on the table, gas in the car. I know several people that are having to get rid of the family dog, and I'm not trying to turn that into a joke of any kind, because I think that's tragic and traumatic for the children. But literally, mom and dad are at the end of the week, and they don't have the $40 for the bag of dog food. They don't have the money to take the dog to the vet. Several people I know have surrendered their animals because they're literally like, that $40 a week on dog food I'm spending, that's $160 a month. That's 8 meals. So yeah, our economy is going to have to get a whole lot worse before it can even start to get better. Does changing the category like that mess up? When I had to change the category, it only messes up the category if I'm doing a sponsored stream, because the way some of these things track, it tracks while you're live. So it doesn't, if I'm just bullshitting with you guys, it doesn't matter. I think the last 2 years of high school should offer trade school classes. I think not only that, I think every high school in America that gets federal tax dollars needs to revert from for-profit population creation, which is college prep high schools. Then they can't get any federal money. If you're calling yourself a college prep high school, no federal money. I think if you go back, like I want to preface this because I'm in a really weird place. I'm in the middle of a German farm town, but like 70% of our kids go on to highly technical colleges, because we have STEM, we have DODS money, which is Department of Defense school money, and now we're building a VOCEC building. We're inside the old Dollar General. That's all smart shit. Mechanics. If you watch the movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, where he's portraying Dr. Joe Clark of East Side High, there's a girl and she says, "Dr. Clark, I want to be an auto shop, but they stuck me in home ec." She's like, I have five younger brothers and sisters. I've been cooking since I was 8. I've been sewing. I've been doing laundry. I don't need home ec. I want to be a mechanic. And so Dr. Clark starts writing, and he's like, "Do you know how much auto mechanics make?" He pulls this thing off. He's like, $17 an hour. Hands her the slip and says, "Go take this to Mr. O'Malley. He'll put you in auto shop." I think home economics is a class that needs to come back to American schools. No offense, some of you have told me you don't know how to cook. Some of you have said, I don't know how to prepare food. Preparing food is a skill your parents should have taught you. If your parents failed to teach you how to cook, then the school should teach you. Because we need to get back we need to get out of this idea that this is the family stuff and this is the school stuff, and there's a big wall between them. We need to get education back to where we need to get back to what the family teaches you and what the school teaches you complement each other. If you can read, you can cook. They are just too lazy to cook. Not necessarily. I disagree with the premise. If you can read, you can attempt to cook. But unless you have somebody giving you dumbed down instructions, learning how to cook can be difficult. HelloFresh does a great job of putting together these box meals with an instruction card. The problem is there's a lot of things on the HelloFresh instruction card that they're taking for granted you understand how to do some things. Well, HelloFresh got some feedback, and they said, somebody said to HelloFresh and said, you're not really explaining some things. So they've turned around and they've started explaining in like the margin what they mean. Like, we have sent you a garlic clove. You will need to mince that. Then over on the side, it says, not sure how to do garlic. First, if you don't have a garlic mincer, that's okay. Use a glass or a cup and smash it. Peel off the paper-like film. You don't need that. Cut off the little nub at the end and then use a fork to mash it. For somebody that doesn't know how to mince garlic, they're gonna be like, how do I do this? Watch food shows too. It's simple to look online to learn most simple things. Yeah, but you have to start with the basics. So I agree with you. Do I feel like there's been an abnormally high number of items being recalled due to contamination, or do you think it's getting more publicity? I think when you have a system where you know damn well you have to monitor and you decide to cut whatever 15 to 20% of the inspectors, then you can't be fucking surprised when you can't be surprised when the number of incidents start to go up. Would it be great if everybody knew the rules and abided by the rules? Yes. Are some of the things that happen the result of negligence? Yes. Are some of the things that happen the result of accidents? Yes, absolutely. I've seen things that happen. How I got food poisoning was once the restaurant had a number of people go to the hospital for food poisoning, they realized that the chef, the person that closed, had put things into the cooler, not the fridge. If you don't know what the difference between a cooler is and a fridge is, you have a cooler, you pull meat out of the fridge, you put it into the cooler so that it brings it closer to room temperature before you cook it. Well, the person closed, put shrimp in the cooler instead of the fridge, and then the next day they pulled it out of the cooler, put it on the first cart. That's negligence, but it's also an accident. Like, the person didn't know enough. Doesn't change the fact that 7 or 8 people got food poisoning, and then it was hard for the restaurant to know because the rest of the shrimp was in the fridge. It was just this person was trying to be expeditious for opening, so they'd already pre-positioned the shrimp. Yeah, but that allowed the shrimp to be too close to room temperature, and seafood is susceptible to food poisoning, bacteria. I think our problem is we need inspections on things, but I think a lot of people would be grossed out at some of our FDA standards. Your box of cereal is allowed to have a certain percentage of bug components in it. I think the appropriate amount of bug components in my cereal is 0. But if you did that, we wouldn't have cereal because it's an unreachable standard. You occasionally get the people who say, I opened up a can of fruit and there was a dead mouse in it. Yeah, because food packaging plants aren't the same as your local restaurant. You can't keep 100% of the mice out of a food packaging plant. You simply cannot. If there's food, there's going to be rodentia. You have too many trucks coming in and coming out, because then you'd have to sanitize and sterilize every single transport vehicle. Yeah, that shit shouldn't happen, but it does happen. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it's the reality. That is why in process improvement, we don't aim for perfection. And I think this catches some people radically off guard. We do not aim for perfection in logistics. So most companies do not operate at Six Sigma. But I want you to see, even a company working at Six Sigma is only 99.99966% efficient. Most companies wish that they were operating at Six Sigma. Toyota, the company that created a huge chunk of process improvement, their factories often run at about 3 Sigma. 3 Sigma sounds great, 93% efficient. But that still means out of 1 million opportunities for defects, they have 66,800 defects. Notice that the next tier up takes you to 99%. You still have 6,000 defects. And unfortunately, those defects can be anything. I don't have Boeing's off the top of my head. Boeing is probably right at around 3 as well, though. Most companies, even if they have huge CPI divisions, they struggle to get above 3. Because remember, a defect is anything, absolutely anything that goes wrong. It's a defect. It's really hard to get up to 99% efficiency. So I think a lot of what's going on is we're getting more publicity because the media doesn't like Donald Trump. So they're using the fact that he made cuts and Doge made cuts to food inspections, that they're taking the opportunity to put egg on his face. At the same time, as I talked about, if you know you need 300 inspectors, you need 300 inspectors. There's no way to get around needing the 300 inspectors. We don't need 5 million liberal arts degree holders. We shouldn't spend tax money to send them for that degree. We should only be sending the most qualified people we need in the economy to college on the federal dime. I agree with you. I think the problem is you can't run the civilian economy the same way you run the military. If you're not familiar with the way the military runs, it runs on a bucket system. So I'm gonna go back to the year 2000, because starting at a round block makes this easier. So in the year 2000, the military projects out to the year 2020 for one career field. And I'm gonna use my career field because I understand it. So we're talking about LROs. Now, they know that in the year 2020, they're going to need 166 06s, and they're going to need 300 05s. So they start looking at that and they say, okay, the individuals that are commissioning in the year 2000 will have to make up 25 of the 06s and 50 of the 05s. So then they figure, okay, in order to get those numbers, we need to commission 800 brand new lieutenants. Because by the year 2004, when the first group of them can get out, we'll be down to 650. And then when the academy graduates graduate from that year, we'll be down to 575. And then by this year, we'll have this many, this year, we'll have this many, this year, we'll have this many. And so we start doing force shaping. Well, what we would love to do is get to the year 2019 and have more than 75 qualified people, because then we could pick the best qualified ones and let the rest retire at 20 as a major and say we don't need you. The problem is sometimes this number right here, 800 to 650, this becomes 500. 300 people got out because they said, fuck this deployment ratio. And then when the academy graduates get out, now we're down to 425. So now the military says, oh shit. So what do? Remember, the thing about long-term projections is, if I need a baby in 9 months, I can't get 9 women pregnant this month and have a baby next month. I have a 9-month lead time. Need a baby? Need 9 months. So then the military starts to scramble and they say, oh shit. Right here in 2004, they said, okay, we're gonna commission a lot more LROs. And then what we're gonna do is, their year to become colonels and shit would be 2024. We're gonna give a lot of them what's known as 2 years below the line. They're gonna get their first look 2 years early. The problem is, that works great for the military. Why? Because it's not free will. It's needs of the Air Force. We don't need you, get out. We need you to stay longer, stop loss. The problem is, we know damn well we need more doctors, dentists, specialists, teachers, tradespeople. But nobody, the millennials and Gen Xers were told being trade people was dirty. It was dirty work. It was low paying work. The bullshit lie about that, being a tradesperson, some tradespeople make more than college professors. Lots of tradespeople make more than college professors. I wish I could go back in time and not laugh at the Bitcoin fake money. I swear I should have bought in at the beginning, that I wouldn't be working over 40 hours a week. I will say this. I give props to all the people who made their money on Bitcoin. And I wish to God I could go back and buy Bitcoin when it was like $8 each. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. I'm more than happy with my life. So I don't want to, if wishes were fishes, I don't want to sit here and look back over my life and be filled with regret. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with where I am. I'm happy with the life I've lived. If I'm sitting here streaming with you guys and I have a fucking massive heart attack and I die, I'm okay. I'm gonna be a little sad that I don't get to see the last 5 years of my youngest daughter becoming an adult, but I don't live with a bunch of regret. Something I learned from a very wise mentor when I was still a young man. He said, limit yourself to 3 regrets a year, because then you're going to become more deliberate in your decision making. If you limit yourself to 3 regrets a year, you have to start being more tactical about your choices. You need to be more long-term thinking. If any of you ever read the novel that I'm writing, if I ever finish it, there's a whole chapter where one of the characters, she's talking about regret, and it's like I'm writing a fiction book, but I'm putting a lot of philosophy, thought process in it. Like, she regrets this. No, that's not where the regret lies. Where does the regret really lie? Hi, I know you can't see your girlfriend because you're domestically abusive. I know, you're so upset. This is Mischief. I have 2 voids. He's one of them. Hi. You want to go? Want to go? Okay, go. Let's see. I used to work at a meat processing plant. We always knew 2 weeks in advance there would be an inspection. We would double the cleaning staff for it. The funny part about that is because Cook County is Crook County, I always knew when my random inspections at the bar were going to be. I always knew when my random inspections were coming. So the night before, we would pull all the alcohol bottles, clean the counter, check all the bottles. Because if you've ever been a bar owner, you can have every new golly gee whiz bang attachment for the top of the bottle, the spigots for the bottles, and you're gonna get fruit flies. Well, fruit flies are in alcohol. They're in your own personal alcohol. If you leave your shit out, you're gonna get fruit flies. You just strain them. It's fine. But when your bar gets inspected, if you have any fruit flies in a bottle, you have to dump the whole bottle. They watch you pour the bottle. You can't even take it for your personal consumption. So it's really a nice heads up to know when you're getting your random inspection the next morning, because then if there are some bottles that are questionable, you just take that shit for your personal consumption. You got to scratch the tax tab, then transfer it. But you can do that. You own the shit. I think that we need to get away from coordinated inspections. Meat processing plants. First of all, people need to face a hard reality, right? The hard reality is this: the safer you want your meat, the more expensive your meat's going to become, because somebody has to inspect it. If you want the taxpayer to inspect it, or I'm sorry, if you want the government to inspect it, your taxes are going to go up. If you want the company to be beholden to have third-party independent inspectors coming in, then they're going to pass that cost along on the meat. Right now, I don't think we can raise the price of meat up anymore because $8 a pound for ground beef? Shit. As I told you, when I was on vacation, I had some good steaks, but I'm buying the cheapest sirloin I can buy, the cheapest cut of meat. And my wife was like, 20 years ago when my wife and I started dating the second time, I watched my wife order a filet and put A1 on it. And I nearly lost my shit. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, that's a filet. Yeah. You don't put A1 sauce on a filet. She's like, I put A1 sauce on everything. I said, well, then on my dollar, buy a fucking cheap ass cut of sirloin and slather that piece of shoe leather with A1. A1's disgusting. A1 is designed to cover the taste of bad meat. So then my wife started trying the steaks I eat without the A1 sauce. She's like, oh my God, this is delicious. Like when I first started dating my wife, she was ordering all her shit medium well, closer to well. What the fuck is this? Medium. It should still, you should hear it mooing from the kitchen when they knock the horns off of it and toss it on the grill. Now, medium rare for some people like medium rare. I don't like medium rare. I don't like rare. If I'm gonna have medium rare or rare, then I'll go to a place that serves beef tartare. Yeah, just order the shoe leather. It's cheaper. You're gonna need the sauce if you're gonna cook it to the texture of leather. Like the other day, I told my wife, I said, hey, this piece of meat is really tough. So I brought the A1 to the table for her because we're at that point again. My wife, she's like, you know, we need like baseball cut filet mignons. $22 a pound. Fuck right off. I can't, like, I'm comfortable, but I can't afford that shit. For $22, I'm gonna go to the steakhouse and get potatoes and vegetables with it. I love pork chops, but I prefer pork roast. Let's see. Was college actually a lie, or has access to information on the internet made college far less of a necessity than we were told? Well, first of all, I'm going to stop you. Access to information on the internet has gone into the hands of a bunch of fucking numpties. And these are people that don't read all of the content. They only read a part of the content. What they're doing is they're scanning for the factoids that support their argument. But it's like the movie Dogma. You have to keep reading. People will cherry pick factoids out of an article or out of a document. Like, I'm probably gonna get some shit for this, and I don't care. Lindsay Clancy needs the fucking death penalty. If you're not familiar with who Lindsay Clancy is, she is the mother that killed her 3 children. So they say that Lindsay Clancy was begging for help before killing her children, former mother-in-law testifies. Lindsay Clancy was begging for help in the months leading up to killing her 3 children and attempting to end her own life. Lindsay was struggling. We were all concerned. You were so concerned for your fucking grandkids that you did what? Mother of Patrick Clancy, who found the Massachusetts couple children after they'd been strangled in the family basement. Lindsay Clancy also attempted her own life that night and was left paralyzed. They're now divorced. Susan, who like Lindsay worked as a labor and delivery nurse, said that she and her former daughter-in-law were close and described Lindsay as a wonderful mother who was very nurturing, very loving. Her testimony echoed emotional accounts that day from Lindsay's mother and sister, who recounted for juries how they saw her becoming increasingly anxious, paranoid, and suicidal starting in the fall of 2022. Susan said Lindsay was open about struggling and asking her mother-in-law's support. The jury was shown texts between them in which Lindsay spoke about fears she had developed a dependency on benzodiazepines but couldn't sleep without taking them. Let me stop you right there. If you are on benzodiazepines, you have a dependency on them. There's no fucking I might be developing a dependency on them. Benzodiazepines are for short-term periods because they literally take over the biochemical function of your body. Why do you get addicted to benzos? Because I think every human being struggles sometimes to fall asleep. And when you can be drowsy in 2 minutes and you can be asleep in 5, no shit. Why was I a benzo addict? Because I'm an insomniac. You're gonna give me 20 milligrams of Valium every night to sleep? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Right? Fuck yeah. Susan said Lindsay was open about struggling. I'm not okay and I'm terrified of taking meds. The trial centers not on whether Lindsay Clancy killed her own children, which her lawyers did not dispute, but on her state of mind at the time. The defense argues she should not be held criminally responsible because she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, while prosecutors say she planned the killings and understood what she was doing. First of all, I am fucking tired of people saying all this bullshit, postpartum depression isn't real. Yes, the fuck it is. How do you know it is? Because you can literally find detailed diagnostic criterion for postpartum depression in the DSM-5 and in the ICD-11. It's real. It's a thing. Okay? It's a thing. There are some women, you say, well, if they have postpartum depression, no, that's the lady that struggled. Well, I don't know if she jumped out the window. I think she is, but she strangled her kids. The problem is people say if postpartum depression is real, why didn't they develop it after their first child? Because they have Irish twins. One baby was born in September, right? And then the next baby was born in June. The postpartum depression was cured by being pregnant again. It's postpartum. Some women, they get past the postpartum depression isn't a defense against strangling your own kids. It is. It absolutely is. because they're arguing that she had postpartum psychosis. When you are in a state of psychosis, you don't know what you're doing. Strangling your kid should lead to the death penalty. I agree. But I only was able to watch a little bit of her psychiatrist's testimony, but the psychiatrist literally has typos, meaningful typos, in her clinical notes. And for those of you that have zero training in counseling, my notes about you need to be that any other provider in the world can pick up my notes about you and treat you. It's the same on it's the same on the psychiatrist side. You should be able, your psychiatrist should be able to be hit by a bus and another psychiatrist step in, sit down, spend 10 minutes reading your file and be able to understand why you're on the cocktail of medication you're on. When you start having mistakes that are like no sleep impairment versus sleep impairment, how the fuck can anybody quality control her treatment if they're reporting she's not reporting sleep things? But the way the doctor's notes were, that's not what they said. And they're her fucking notes. Now, I'm not saying this is a get out of jail free card. I think there's a lot of culpability, starting with the mother-in-law. You're a labor and delivery nurse. This is what your daughter-in-law is saying. And you're not taking your grandkids, talking to your son and saying, I need to take the kids need to be out of the house. I will take the kids. You worry about getting your wife the help she needs. She needs to be institutionalized because of the things she's saying, and they need to figure out what's wrong with her. But then that leads into the problem with our society. Everybody, that would make her a mandated reporter. It does, but what you have to understand is that being a mandated reporter, and I'm not trying to give counselors a get out of jail free card on this one either, but when I was a counselor, and I still am, I'm a DV counselor. I just didn't finish my counseling hours. I'm a DV counselor though. Because my certificate in Illinois for DV counseling is still active, there are certain things you cannot say to me because you trigger my mandated reporting. Unfortunately, and what I hate is physical violence is if he's hitting you. Physical violence is if she's hitting you. I have to report physical violence. There are other things that are not checking the boxes of mandated reporter. Now, I also contracted for DCFS. And because I contracted for DCFS, I had to follow their mandated reporter guidelines as well. I told you about the guy. I was interviewing him for DV. And I picked up his file and I was like, I had a general rule. I'm not going to call your caseworker till after I've interviewed you and I've done my initial report. And then I'm going to send my initial draft to my boss. She's going to sign it, which locks it to cover my ass. Then I'm going to call your caseworker. And then I'm going to put an amended report on top of my report if things change. But in this one particular guy's case, I opened up his file and I'm looking at it and I said, I gotta call the caseworker because if these notes are accurate, I'm gonna fucking vomit in my trash can. A grown-ass man still taking baths with his 9-year-old daughter. So that was the very first thing on the top of my interview. And I made sure to bust out the mandated reporter card disclaimer. So I call this guy, we're on Zoom. I call him. I said, client, I have to read you this disclaimer, and then you're gonna have to agree on video. I'm recording this interview. You're gonna have to agree. Said, my name is Shalon. I'm a contractor for DCFS. I work for XYZ Corporation. I'm a mandated reporter. So I'm letting you know that I'm required by law to report anything that is child abuse, spousal abuse, or creating a less than safe and loving home environment. It's a big catch-all. I said, okay, I gotta, normally I ask these in a different order, but I'm gonna ask you a really pointed question because you reported this on your report to DCFS. Is this a typo or is it the reality of the situation? You take baths with your 9-year-old daughter. He says, yes. So you're in the bathtub naked? Yes. And she's in the bathtub naked? Yes. Okay, moving on to the top of my discussion. I did my whole interview. Finished the interview with the guy. The guy literally said, so what are we looking at, Chief? Are we looking at like 16 weeks of class? I said, unfortunately, I don't speak about the recommendations until after I write the report. And I don't write the report live while I'm on the phone with you, or on the video call with you. So you'll hear from my company in 2 to 3 days. I hung up. I immediately got on the call with the caseworker. I was like, yeah, I have the recorded confession of this shit. And she's like, you have what? I was like, yeah, he just recorded himself on a video call saying this. She's like, send it to me. I was like, oh, I'm already sending it to you and to the police because I'm not going to jail for your ass. The guy got pissed. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. And that's what we need more of. We need more of. We need people getting involved. But for all these people that are all championing Lindsay Clancy, my question for you then is, if you're going to champion Lindsay Clancy and say she doesn't deserve to go to jail, should Chris Benoit, the WWE superstar who choked to death his son and his wife, should he be exonerated from all the concussions that he had? Because I think the better we are at creating justifications, then our society becomes shit. Like, what I said was Lindsay Clancy should have put herself in an institution. There were enough other people involved. I think the mother-in-law should be held culpable for the death of those children. You've got text messages where she's reaching out to you for help. Hey, get out of there. You can't go in there. Get. You got a fucking cat trying to go in a computer case. I think when we have statements like, Lindsay was struggling, we were all concerned. Well, were you so concerned that you had her put into the hospital on a 96-hour hold? Because remember, in most cases, when you go into the hospital for a 96-hour hold, a different psychiatrist evaluates you. While it is possible to be treated by a psychiatrist who also does evaluations in the psych ward, it takes 2 evaluations to get out of the psych ward. 2. You can't be evaluated if both the people that work at the psych ward or you're on your care team. They have to bring somebody else in. They can't fact quality check their own work. So we've got a real big fucking problem. And that is our society wants to make excuses for everything. Look, we need to get out of this habit of teenage crime suspects committing a crime and the parents saying this bullshit like, oh, they're a good kid. No, they're a fucking criminal. They're a fucking criminal. We need to call them that. That's what we need to call them. We don't need to be saying, oh, they're a good kid. We need to be saying, no, they're a criminal and they need to go to jail. Today, I concluded a deal to substantially lower the price of ground beef for working American families. As everyone knows, under President Biden, beef soared at the fastest rate and American beef herd fell to its smallest size in modern history. As we work to rebuild this herd and help our ranchers for the next 90 days, the United States will allow up to 30,000 metric tons of product for ground beef to imported with no out-of-quota tariff. We have committed that this beef will be sold at 25% below current market price. The deal will help reduce prices for Americans while giving space for our great American beef herd to grow again. Ladies and gentlemen, this post right here definitively shows you how Donald Trump doesn't know the first thing about economics. Yeah, it undercuts American ranchers. Now, is it possible that right now American ranchers are selling animals that aren't fully fattened up? I suppose, but this is the weight that I normally sell my cow. My cow is currently at this weight, but the meat packing plant is saying we need cows now. And I'm like, look, man, I ain't got no cows, because my 1,200 pound cow at $1.25 a pound gets me 1,500. Well, if the meat packing plants are going to the cattle ranchers and saying, well, we'll give you $1.60 a pound because we need beef to put on the shelves, then you do $9.75 times 160, and the rancher makes $15.60. So for the rancher makes $60 more per cow. The rancher says, sure, I'll sell them early, I'll sell them underweight because I'm making more. But if you're saying we're bringing in 30,000 metric tons of ground beef and we're going to sell it at 25% below the current value, and remember, most of a cow is ground beef. Everything that's not a primary cut gets ground up. How is that going to help the American rancher? What's going to help the American rancher is not paying taxes for a year. Hey, what we're going to do in order to put some more profit into your pocket, yeah, and sometimes you can't even do that because you rely on your cows to be producing until slaughter. Right. Can't sell them underweight because I still need them. The problem we have is that most people, the single greatest way to help the average person would be to take the tax boot off of their neck. Until you take the tax boot off of people's necks, it is very difficult for me every year to do my company taxes and then help people with their taxes. And here's why. At PGN, I get to write off of my income everything I spend money on for the business. I bring in $15,000. I expense out $12,000. I only pay tax on $3,000. Why isn't it the same for working class people? Why is tax itemization so bullshit? Why isn't rent a tax deductible thing? Yeah, I made $50,000 this year, but I spent $18,000 on rent. Why can't I take my $50,000 minus 18? And why can't we start talking before I even take my standard deduction? Why aren't we looking at $32,000 as my taxable income? You know, I got to have somewhere to live. Well, that's what your standard deduction does. Really. Your standard deduction covers rent, food, utilities, and transportation? Because I don't fucking think so. The processing time difference between a 900-pound cow and a 1,200-pound cow is negligible, so higher cost per cow, same expensive in processing cost, less product to sell at the end. Right. Why did chicken go up in cost? Bird flu. We had avian flu. We had to kill all the millions of laying hens. Why did eggs go up? I get what people say, right? Animals need better humane treatment. I don't disagree. I do not disagree that the animals that we eat need to be treated better. But we can't even feed our own population. Until we can feed our population, I'm sorry, whichever route to get people, it's not like we can hit reset. It's not like we've played through 2 rounds of, Sim City and we realize the mistakes we're making, so we get to reset and have a whole brand new clean thing. We got to fix it while it stays functional. And I think that is one of the hardest things we're going to have to fuck through, because we have to keep oh, hold on one second. We need to keep the society running. And right now, I think we have a very large, major problem in that society isn't functional. I saw a news report. Sorry, I forgot to pull the videos for today's show. I saw a news report where they talked about a guy at Disney World beating the shit out of his kid. And then the witness literally heard the guy say to his kid, "If anybody asks you, you fell." How did our society, honest to God, get this fucked up? How did we get here? How did we get to a level of depravity? But Jay, if the rich just paid their fair share, all of our problems will be gone. That bullshit that Bernie Sanders keeps saying, Bernie Sanders will continue to dodge this question, as will every other politician. If we only tax the rich and they paid their fair share, they are paying their fair share. They're paying exactly what they're required to pay by the tax law. Well, then what we should do is we should change the tax law. I agree, but where the problem is that the U.S. government has pissed away $40 trillion. If the U.S. government has pissed away $40 trillion, then honest to God, answer me, how is another 300 billion going to suddenly fix all the problems? And the answer is it's not. Because intervening results in a lawsuit, right? And it should never result in a lawsuit. Intervening to protect a child should never, ever, ever result in a lawsuit. No, I saw somebody said the internet and porn made the depravity worse. I don't think it did. And I'm being serious. I don't think the internet and porn made the depravity worse. It just made it more easily accessible. But it's not, yeah, Rome functioned for millennia with camp whores. In fact, your legion had whores that followed your legion. Not only did the soldiers know exactly where to go on the field without thought, because it was always set up the same way, the whores knew where their favorites would be. Where you have the problem is the parenting part. When you see a parent, and all the Gen Xers, I'm probably going to cause you some emotional damage here. Gen Xers as children, we didn't speak out because it was the on-running joke where we would get corrected before we ever got in the store. Okay, we're going in the store, and if you ask for one fucking thing, I'm going to slap you. And you're like, did you just threaten to slap me for something I haven't even done yet? You were seen and not heard. You were seen and not heard. And if your parents called for you across the house, hey, Jay, what? Oh, that'd get you an ass kicking. Hey, Jay, that means show up. That means stop what you're doing. Get up off your ass, walk to whichever parent called you and say, yes. There's psychology research that says children who are vocal are children that feel safe speaking. And children that are silent are children that don't feel safe. And that hits a certain kind of different way. Whoring for legions was considered a civic duty. There were different things women could do to fulfill their civic duty, but whoring for a couple of years was one of them, and frequently ended in a marriage between a whore and a legionary. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we got. We need, honest to God, we need some straight up fixing of America. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
So someone who believes it.
But I do know that I'm seeing entirely too many videos like this one. And I'm not sure what the hell. I'm not sure how we fix our society.
So someone who believes in triangles.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So someone who believes in triangles sent me this image.
Yep, that's what I thought she said.
And if I were a more reactionary person, I would go, yeah, that's proof they exist. But the thing is, this is just the outline. Where is he? Where is he? What you're not gonna do is show me a paw print and tell me it's a dog. You're not gonna show me a crop circle and tell me that's the spaceship that made it. Anyone could have made this! This is the narrative that they want you to think. Wake up, wake up. They're not real. You've never seen one. And if you had, you'd have more evidence than this.
Are you saying that, like, triangles aren't, like, naturally occurring geometric shape? They are. They are. They are found in nature. There are people who don't believe in triangles.
What the? Look. It's naturally occurring. I didn't know how to break. I really wish that I was in better health so I could have made a response to that, because yeah, they fucking exist. Them's some fucking triangles. But it's not a triangle. You're right. It's a pyramid. But each face of a pyramid is a 2D surface. You're absolutely right. But are you telling me that carpet doesn't exist? Because carpet lays on one surface of the cube that is the room you're in. But the sad part is, this is how the fuck we're using fucking, yeah, you're playing devil's advocate, and you're right, because I like devil's advocates because it forces me to like go to a higher, yeah, it's a pyramid, it's a 3-dimensional shape with a 2-dimensional surface. Because you encounter 2-dimensional surfaces all the time. My hand is on my desk, right? My desk is a 3-dimensional object with many 2-dimensional surfaces. The way her face looked isn't naturally occurring. Naturally occurring that brings up something made by aliens. Right. You married a high school math teacher that specializes in geometry, so we play these games consistently or constantly. Yeah. We literally have an entire mathematical science based around nothing but triangles. Yup. I don't even
Someone who believes
I don't even know where the fuck we're going. We're going with this, right? But I'm very, very, very concerned. Little politics one. Ready?
You can tell he regrets asking this question.
Do Republicans have a good answer to address the border crisis other than busing migrants to liberal cities?
We had an agreement with Mexico that was called the Remain in Mexico Agreement, which says that if someone crossed into Mexico illegally from typically Central or South America, they would remain in Mexico while their asylum case was proceeding in the U.S., and the numbers plummeted. We had the lowest rate, as I said, in 45 years, and then Biden came in and ripped that international agreement to shreds, and that's what produced now 8.4 million illegal aliens since Biden's been president.
Boy, I walked right into that one, didn't I?
So, this is what I've said for months of doing this show. We need to talk to Mexico. And we need to say to Mexico, look, Mexico, this shit ain't working for us.
You can tell he regrets
So
asking this
what
question.
we have, Mexico, is we have a really big problem. What we have is this really long ass border with your country. I don't know why it went out into the ocean. Since I have to redraw it, we'll make it bigger. Right, Mexico, we have this really long ass border with you. There's a lot of real estate here, right? What we would like to do is we would like to work with you, and instead of having 1,200 miles of border, we would like to work with you, and we would like to, put a wall there. Or El Salvador, or Guatemala and Belize, we'd like to put a wall here. We'd like to stop them from even getting into Mexico. We're gonna put US immigration stations down there so that we can engage with them, but we don't want them getting all the way to America, and you don't want them getting all the way deep into Mexico. Makes a hell of a lot more sense. You know what else would be great? If we just said no more immigrants. If we just said, if you're not already in here, you're not coming in. We're full. Sorry, we're full. El Salvador is cleaning house. Morally questionable tactics, but it's working. Well, unfortunately, as I said, the only way to fix a problem is to fix the problem. You pick up a hammer and nails, and you fix the problem. The problem is when the only tool you have in your toolbox is a hammer, you see every problem as a nail. But all these fucking bleeding heart liberal white women in America that want to fucking protect everything except Americans have to understand, money doesn't solve the problem. Our country is $40 trillion overexpended. Stop fucking giving shit to people if we don't have the money. I'm all for charity. I'm all for helping people, giving people a helping hand up. But holy shit, people, we're broke. We're broke. America is bankrupt, morally and financially. We can't keep this pace going. This one is a great example of you got to be careful about what you post on the internet.
All of our ages 2, 7, 9, 11, 26.
Okay. So 30, right? Again, be careful what you put on the internet. 30, 26, for your age difference. The kid's 11, 30 minus 12, because you got pregnancy. 18, 26 minus 12. 14. Hello? 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 CPS? 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 What the fuck? Like, now, I hope that's a stepmom. Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, this fucking, this, I decided to kill off a few characters in the book I'm writing. It would definitely spice up my autobiography a little. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think about that almost on a daily basis.
If someone from my past, or even my present, comes to you with a story about me, and it paints me in a negative light, go ahead, believe them, but ask yourself, what did they do to push me to that point? I'm fully aware that I'm the villain in some people's stories, and I'm fine with that. The thing is, people's minds are selective. They conveniently start the narrative where I became the villain, conveniently forgetting what led up to that. I have no problem being the villain in your story, because I know myself. I'll never wake up and decide to hurt you out of nowhere. When you cross me, when you betray me,
I brought that one down because that one is very much a problem we have right now in society. We have this we have this problem where everybody wants to blame somebody else. Nobody ever wants to take personal accountability. Nobody wants to take any personal accountability for their shit. Yeah, that woman still looked like a kid. You can play the birth months, and it's possible that it was 17 and 14, avoiding the underage laws. No, you can't, because every state that I have found that had a consent at 14, I've never found a state that said a 14-year-old has unrestricted access for sex. Some of the states have gotten really particular about who can have sex with who, but I've never seen a state where 14 and 17 was legal. So even playing with the birth months, you're fucked. But even if let's just go the other route. Even if you're in a state where 17 and 14 was legal, it's still not right. Yeah, I've not heard of Romeo and Juliet laws, but the 3-year gap is okay. The 3-year gap is usually 16 to 19. The age of consent is 16. She was with the boyfriend through high school, generally senior freshman, which is weird anyway. But he turns 18. She's still 16. He's gonna turn 19 before she turns 17. Then the Romeo and Juliet law applies. But I've never seen one for a state where 17 and 14 was okay. And even if 17 and 14 was okay, that means she was a teenage high school mom, and you're okay with this. No. If I'm the villain in someone's story, then the question is who's the good guy in the situation. My concern is in my own story. I know I'm the villain of my own story. I want to know what all the fucking good guys are still doing alive in my story. It's kind of just in the fucking way. I honestly don't understand why guys like girls who are younger than they are. Well, I can tell you in the high school age, in the adolescent phase, it's not so much that what you have is what the fuck is it? So you have a girl who's 17 and a boy who's 17. But emotionally, the girl is 17 and the boy is operating somewhere between 14 and 16. The girl down here who is, 16, or the girl down here that is 14 is operating on the same emotional level as a boy who's 17. I did not design human beings, so I do not get down with this idea of waving a magic pencil and saying that the maturity levels are different. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Like Wolfagar said, that is essentially a grade 9 dating a grade 12, which is already a little off, except it's not, because what about a person in my case where grade 12s shouldn't be mingling with single-digit grades? Cool, but let me throw you for an instance. 12, 11, 10, 9. 18, 17, 16, 15, right? Except 17, 16, 15, 14. That was me. I didn't turn 18 until what should have been the fall semester of my freshman year in college. So you have a girl at a school that's a freshman and I'm a senior, but we're only 2 years apart, and she's going to turn 16 before I turn 18. Now, I'm only doing the ages there. If we take what Wolfagar was starting with and we go a little bit further with it, I think where the disconnect becomes is that I'm a senior, she's a freshman. I'm going off to college, which is going to be putting me in a different ecosystem than a sophomore in high school should be involved in. That's where the rub is. I'm going to the university, you're still in high school. Why am I in college going to high school proms? Especially in this scenario, why am I a college freshman going to a sophomore dance? It's not the age thing, it's the environment thing. What is your environment? What is her environment? Like, if I say to you, the day I was graduating with my master's degree was the same day my wife was graduating with her high school diploma, that throws off all sorts of fucking, wait, what the fuck? Hold up. What the fuck? Except I didn't marry my wife until 4 years later. I didn't know her when she was in high school. I knew her in a different environment. I met her in the military. I was a 24-year-old airman. She was an 18-year-old airman. Airman and airman, check mark. E134 with E134, check mark. We dated. We didn't make it work. Then shit. 4 years later, we started dating again. That brings it up a little bit different. I think the problem is you can't have a conversation with anybody because when you start to try to have an academic conversation, people automatically assume you're trying to justify some behavior that they find reprehensible, be it morally, ethically, spiritually. They're like, I find that offensive. But most people are hypocrites. I've never been attracted to a woman younger than I am. I don't see being within 6 months as different age. Yeah, that's you. I'm different. I've dated women older than me. I've dated women younger than me. It is what it is. There's raw biological reason, then there's the societal moral reason. Biologically, it makes sense to procreate as soon and as often as possible. Socially, moral says not the best idea and it should be regulated. There's no biological reason to mate early and often. There's no biological reason to. There's technically no biological drive to have children. There's a biological drive to have sex. Societally, we used to have big families. Why? You need 5 boys to work the farm. You need to have 7 boys to get 5 to survive. Typhoid comes around, shit, I'm down a hay baler. Go back a little bit further. Why did a dad have at least 2 sons? An heir and a spare. Why did dads want children, but he only wanted 2 sons and he wanted like 5 daughters? Because daughters you marry off. Hey, shit, this sounds like Crusader Kings 3. Daughters you marry off for alliances. You only want 2 sons, the heir and the spare. Heir, spare, then the rest go to the church or out into the world. Right, exactly. And there was an order to that. The heir got trained in all the things the father did, no matter where their station was. Blacksmith, first son became the blacksmith, the apprentice. Nobility, the first son learned how to be the next noble. The second one learned how to be the next noble. But the second one also learned how to be a military commander. Because if the son becomes the heir, the son says, hey, go serve the king. The next one down went into the clergy. What a lucky man you are, Baron J. You have an heir, you have a spare, and your son is regarded highly in the church. Yeah. Why? Hey, call the Pope. I need 1,500 soldiers. Can you make that happen? My dad. Go make that happen. For God, though, for God. Yeah, unlanded knights became mercenaries and war leaders. I don't need you anymore because I'm married. I have 2 sons. You're around. You're a pain in the ass. Deuce Vault to the Holy Land with you.
If someone from my past...
Let's see. Oh yeah, the word of the day. I love this guy. He stopped making videos, but I love this guy.
The O Flora word of the day is fuckleduck. A lovable idiot who waddles confidently into situations they don't understand and somehow makes everything worse. Usually has no idea what's going on, but remains enthusiastically involved regardless.
Fuckleduck. Steven Sharif is definitely a fuckleduck. Without question. The way his lawsuits are going, he's a fuckleduck.
Black people need to stop blaming white people for everything. Yeah, well, Peter, what if the white people had never colonized Africa? You mean like Ethiopia, which today is a famine-ridden shithole? Yeah, well, what if all the black people kicked out all the white people, like they did in Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe, which is now a famine-ridden shithole? Oh, well, Peter, what if all the slaves had overthrown the white slave owners and taken over the plantations themselves, like they did in Haiti, which is now a famine-ridden shithole? Oh, well, Peter, maybe all the black people who were slaves should have gone back to Africa and left you all alone. Yeah, they had the chance. They could have gone back to Liberia, which many of them did, and is now a famine-ridden shithole. Oh, well, Peter, what happens if there'd never been an apartheid in South Africa? Well, then it would be like South Africa today, which is a shithole with no infrastructure. Significantly worse than it was 30 years ago, by the way. I'm starting to think maybe it's not the white people's problem.
Damn. Gotta give that guy some fucking kudos for having big cojones to put that out on the internet. You gotta have a pair of brass balls to put that video out. But you know what? I respect him because he's putting out something that's going to create talking points. You know, it's becoming more and more accepted now. It's becoming more and more accepted because it should be accepted. Because all of those situations should be looked into. Okay? Look at the city of Chicago. City of Chicago, run by Mayor Daley for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah, they went to Liberia. That's what he said. The problem is Liberia is a poverty-ridden shithole. Chicago was affluent once. They got a black mayor. The black mayor tries to, in one swoop, solve all of the systemic racism problems. Chicago now is a poverty-ridden shithole. You cannot fix a problem in short term. You cannot. What do they tell officers in the military? Liberia problems are because of civil wars. Right, the civil wars of the people living there. Come on, man. 2 and 2 together. One group of people doesn't like how it is. The other group of people liked how it was. They were all the same demographic. The problem we have is we're still talking about slavery reparations. Why? Why are we talking about slavery reparations? Because people want free shit. Why do you think America is so fucked in our court system? Because you can civilly sue anybody for anything as long as you have one piece of credible, factual data to base the whole lawsuit around. You shouldn't be able to sue anybody for anything. Because, hey, stop mooching. As long as you can keep your story straight, right? I told you the story. There was a kid. There was a kid at Universal Studios. Hey. You're pressing buttons. Stop it. There's a kid at Universal Studios. Kid breaks his foot, right? Kid breaks his foot. Universal Studios says, we don't acknowledge that we were at fault because your son's foot was not inside the ride. However, to be good stewards of the amusement park industry, this ride is 28 years old, I think, at the time. It's passed numerous safety inspections. But what we're willing to do is we're willing to put you up at one of our resorts for 6 weeks. You can have a pass to the parks for 6 weeks. We'll put you up in one of our resorts for 6 weeks, and we'll give you meal vouchers. Our insurance will pay for all of the medical bills. We're not accepting liability, but what we're doing is we're extending an olive branch, and we're going to try to be just good human beings. That bit them in the ass. Those people turned around and sued them. So Universal said, "You're suing us. Please vacate our property. During the course of the lawsuit, here's your trespass order, because we can't have you on the property while you're involved in litigation with us." They said, "Well, we're only asking for $50,000. And Universal is like, "Get fucked. We have a legal department. We don't pay lawyers to come in. We have litigators. We have litigators that sit in an office. We pay them a lot of money, and they're really, really good because they practice. And then when we need them, they show up." Those people lost their 6 weeks of hotel stays. They lost their 6 weeks of being able to go into the parks. They lost their 6 weeks of meal vouchers. And the judge ultimately tossed the case because there was no level of liability. We have everybody looking to make a quick buck. Whatever happened to just fixing a problem with a handshake and a smile? We don't have that anymore. We have people that want to get rich on their child's injury. I'll be right back. Everyone wants a quick buck. No one wants to be the one to hand over the bucks. So the quick buck people want to utilize force of the government to make others hand over the bucks. Right. We could do slave reparations. We absolutely could. What would it fix? Not a fucking thing. Slave reparations wouldn't fix a fucking thing. Slave reparations would not fix anything. Slave reparations would increase racism in America. Because, as Rob Schneider said, you want people that never owned slaves to have to pay taxes to people who never were slaves. I'm not saying that there isn't systemic racism that has happened, but we need to address the systemic racism. But we need to be able to, like, academically tell people you're fucking wrong. And people can't accept when they're fucking wrong. Black people get charged with more crimes than white people. Yeah. Why? Because black people commit more crimes? Not necessarily, but because black community leaders have petitioned the police departments to put additional forces in additional police resources into those districts. It's simple economics. Every cop will make 4 arrests per shift. This is your city grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are your squad units, right? You have 2 more. So you put 1 floater right here on the borders here, and then 1 floater on the borders here. Now, sounds like a good plan. Then each of the districts gets properly policed. But unfortunately, this is your poverty level and this is your rich level. Well, they don't need 2.5 units to police there. They might need more detectives because what's happening there is more white collar crime, but they don't need patrol units. And then the poor section says, well, we have a lot of crime. Well, why is it that we know that the correlation exists between the poverty area and the crime area? Why is it almost universally the poverty area and the crime area, if you pop up an FBI map of an area that says high crime, and then you go to like the Census Bureau and pop up the affluence, the socioeconomic status charts of that area, if the crime is high, the value is low. Is the value low because there's crime, or is there crime because the value's low? Well, when you instead get the police captain to put those extra 2 units into this district, well, every district would have had, 8 arrests per shift. But now that you've put 2 more officers there, you're going to have 16 there. That's because the police to justify their existence, right, have to be needed. Now, do I think there is definitely some bullshit that happens with African Americans driving while black, walking while black? Yeah, absolutely. I will absolutely say that. Will I also say there are a lot of people of that particular minority that have a chip on their shoulder who act a fool over simple things? Abso-fucking-lutely I will. there are a lot of people that are, because they're in poverty, and black people are disproportionately in poverty than white people are. They're just having a really shitty day. They're not going to be pushed around, and they end up going to jail for resisting, disturbing the peace, failure to follow a lawful instruction on a traffic stop. And what we're not doing is we always want to badger the police. On Wednesday, I talked about video games suck because of the people. Society sucks because of the citizens. Poverty makes for desperate people, yes. The problem I run into is that they see it as a black thing instead of a poverty thing. So then you have black people like me who don't live in poverty still get lumped in with the ghetto black people. Yeah. Who's the only person that can change that? The black community. The only people that can fix that is for the black community to self-police the black community. But can we be honest for a second? You can't. Because the moment you try, you get called an Uncle Tom. Black kid grows up to be a police officer to protect and serve the community he grew up in. Then he gets called an Uncle Tom every time he's on duty because he's arresting black people. If you think I'm lying, look up the research. The ghetto black people need to be left behind. I'm glad you're black because you can say that. It doesn't help when you have black community telling other black members to stop acting white. Right. Stop acting white. You mean stop acting what? Rich? Middle class? Because the worst thing we continue to do is we continue to classify people by by race. Because we have laws and programs and policies that require minimum racial components, we still collect data based on race. There's a great episode of House where Foreman gives a guy a drug. He comes back the next day to see House. He says, I don't want the black people drug. And House is like, it's specifically formulated for black people because biochemically, you're just a little different. I want the same stuff. House is like, I'll give you the same stuff we give Republicans. It's like, I don't begrudge the doctor because I have a very Irish last name. I don't begrudge the doctor when I get asked an additional question about my alcohol use. Do you drink? No. Did you ever drink? That's not on your fucking form. That's not on your goddamn form. Now, you didn't ask me if I ever drink. You asked me, do I drink? Why the fuck do you think when they see the very Irish last name, they ask, did you ever drink? Oh, I don't know. Maybe if I'm running around with a health concern and the normal course of diagnosis is to check the kidneys. Maybe if I turn around and I say to the doctor, yeah, from the time I was 12 until the time I was 37, I drank like a fucking fish. The doctor's going to be like, Although it's not as common, maybe I should check the liver function as well. Because maybe he's got cirrhosis of the liver and that's what's causing these problems. Well, shouldn't they just ask anybody that? Sure, maybe they should universally ask everyone all 57 questions. But the thing about stereotypes that people don't like when you say this, the thing about stereotypes is they're statistically likely to be true. There's nothing wrong with stereotyping people. There is a shit ton wrong about discriminating against people based on stereotypes. You put 5 Irish people. Have you ever assaulted someone with a shillelagh, though? Maybe. The majority of stereotypes is rooted in fact, yes. Unfortunately, when I will say this, when I was in 7th grade, I remember we had this week-long class in social studies about stereotypes. And I thought it was the biggest piece of shit ever. But I kept my mouth shut and I did the assignments. 7 years later, when I went back to the school, I did some of my type A hours at my grade school. One of the things I did specifically was come in and talk about stereotypes. And holy fuck did I piss off the junior high staff. And they were like, we don't really appreciate the lesson plan that you gave. So you don't have to like it, but I know the bullshit that you do here, and you talk about stereotypes. And you say, because it's a Catholic school, stereotyping is wrong. You should get to know the individual. You're right, you should get to know the individual. But stereotypes give you the rough framework of your starting point. And then you modify it per the individual. For example, in the Irish neighborhood, when we were growing up, if you needed to find one of the dads, go to the pub. Why? Because the fucking bartender knew if your old man had been in, if your old man was there, or if your old man had already left. Need to find your dad? Go to the pub. My old man been in? Nah, Jay, he hasn't. So I start walking to the train station where I know he's gonna get off the fucking train. So he gets off the train. Hey, Dad, what are you doing here? Coming to get you. Well, I'll be home. I'll be home I'll be home in and along the way. Mom needs you at home. On my way home. Why? Because we didn't have fucking cell phones. You were a child. You were the gopher. You were a child. You were the fucking Instacart. Hey, boy, what? Put the video games down. I need a loaf of bread for dinner tonight. The end of the bread is moldy. Go get a loaf of bread. Shit. Fucking ET-ing that shit up on my bike with a basket on the front. You were also the remote control for the TV. Yeah. Absolutely.
Black people need to stop.
So I give that guy a lot of credit for putting that out there. But we need more details. We need to go further. What was this one?
Apparently, if you place potatoes into boiling water and let them cook for about 25 minutes, and then drain the water and let them cool in the colander for a couple of minutes before you put them on the baking tray, and literally with a glass, you're gonna smash each potato down flat. You can also do it with a potato masher. Didn't work for me. Apparently a fork also didn't work for me. So I kept using the glass. Don't have to oil the glass, it works perfectly. Then drizzle a bunch of extra virgin olive oil on top. You can also do butter, a nice coating of salt, some black pepper if you wish. You bake them in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for a good 35 to 40 minutes. You take them out, top it with some Parmigiano Reggiano cheese if you'd like, and there you have it. Wow.
Irish lasagna. Don't tell me you can't fucking don't fucking tell me you can't learn to cook. Quick fact check. Poverty levels average was higher under Mayor Daley than under Lori Lightfoot and Brandon Johnson. I believe that even counting the heightened immigration during the 2023 surge. Yeah, under Mayor Daley, what did Mayor Daley get rid of in the city of Chicago? You're right, poverty levels under Mayor Daley were higher. What did Mayor Daley get rid of? Which is why you got to be really careful not to do bullshit factoid checking, and you actually need to get into the subject matter. He closed the Robert Taylor homes, and he closed Scabrini Green. He took the worst of the worst projects and relocated those people to Kankakee and Joliet, because when you have a high-rise several high-rise buildings all within a few block radius of each other, and they're all filled with poor people, those people all count against your books as poverty. But the amount of money the federal government gives you isn't enough to police that, because it's like Judge Dredd. It's like one of the large blocks. You think if there's a fucking incident on the 47th floor of one of these high-rise buildings, the police are gonna go, the first 2 police officers that show up are going in? Fuck no. They used to wait on the outskirts until there was 8 to 12 officers and they'd go and enforce. By that time, the fucking problem is resolved itself or somebody's dead. Poverty can't be concentrated in the metropoli, the metropolis. If you concentrate poverty into an area, yeah, but he didn't see, you say he kicked them out. What he did is he arranged the diaspora. He arranged for each of the local metropolis cities to take a few of them. It's just like this. We have done so much to try to combat poverty, but we haven't started in the school districts. So I'm not going to draw a full rack of houses, but what I'm going to do, just draw a few, and then I'll draw a few on the surrounding blocks. So this is the road, and then this is the common backyard between blocks. And so their road is here, and then their road is here, and then this is the common backyard. So this is just a little grid of a poverty-stricken area in Chicago. And what they had was they had the teacher next door program, or the cop next door program, or the firefighter next door program. So in the city of Chicago, and I don't know if it's still this way now, but back in the day, if you were a CPS teacher, a Chicago cop, or a Chicago firefighter, you had to live within the confines of the city of Chicago. You could live anywhere you wanted in the city. You didn't have to live in your school district. You didn't have to live in your police precinct or your fire precinct, but you had to live in the confines of the city. A lot of cops got caught. 8 guys having an apartment together as a mailing address. They had houses in the suburbs, but they used the apartment as their legal address. So what happens is this is a poverty-stricken area. And all these houses are either being foreclosed on or condemned or whatever the fuck have you. And the city buys them. And then the city sells them to teachers, firefighters, and police officers, because their belief is that when these houses start to be filled with affluent people, then the rising tide will lift all boats and all the other people will get risen up. That's a bullshit theory, because here's what happens. This guy's a cop. He buys the house. And so because he's a cop, the people on either side of him move out because they don't want to live next door to a cop. And so what happens is he gets his cop friend and his firefighter friend. They buy houses there. Well, now this guy wants to move out. This guy wants to move out because they've got cops all around him. So pretty soon this neighborhood becomes the cop and the firefighter subdivision, the teacher subdivision. And now pretty soon, there's no poor people left. Now these houses that you were giving away for $75,000 are all worth $175,000. And now the local school district, right? Because the house price goes up, the tax base goes up, the tax base goes up, the school gets more money. But what can the school choose to do? The school can choose to start getting rid of the low performing teachers and hire all the teachers that live right next door, because those are the high performing teachers. Again, we need to look at the actual problems and not worry about the stump-a-chump parts of it. These are the realities. You don't want to live next to Billy Bob, who's got 4 cars on his front lawn. You don't. Homeowners associations suck ass. They serve one purpose: keep the property values high. Gentrification is a beautiful thing. It is, but the problem with gentrification is it's supposed to be designed so that you only replace the troublesome elements. This is your local crack shack. This is your local whorehouse. What you want to do, this is a poverty person, this is a poverty person, this is a poverty person. What you want to do is you want to get rid of the crack shack, you want to get rid of the whorehouse, and then you want to have a middle class person move in. The idea is that the middle class person it moves in, leads by example, and everybody else starts cleaning up their yards. We know that's bullshit. I live in a fucking subdivision where the homes are over $300,000, And these houses have gone up by 125,000 in 10 years. The guy 4 houses down from me is about as white trash as they come. He gets fined all the time by the homeowners association. Doesn't do nothing. Most people will walk over. Why did the property go up? Because cops and firefighters live in. Because they take care of their houses, they remodel them, they refresh them, they paint them, they mow the lawns, they rip down ugly ass chain link fences, and they put up, picket fences. They go out there and they organize street cleaning because they give a shit, because they got the house for $50,000. They got a piece of equity. They want to maximize its value. Also, as I said, when a detective moves in next door and you're the crack shack, the detective doesn't place the random police neighborhood phone call like, hey, if you guys have some extra officers, can you come out here and talk to these guys that are sitting on the steps, drinking beer, smoking weed, being loud and everything. The detective just picks up the phone and says, yeah, dispatch, this is badge number 1234. Can you roll me 4 units to my address because I've got narcotics activity, so come in heavy and loud. And so the cops show up heavy and loud, grab the guys that are smoking weed, because remember, you can't smoke weed in public. So the guys sitting on their front porch, they're okay, but the guys that are standing by the street corner handing out the little packets of drugs as people drive by, they get arrested and they get taken. Well, drug dealers are a business like anybody else. They're like, oh shit, a detective lives next door. We've made however much money out of here, time to fucking bail out. They sell the house. It goes into the cop next door program or the teacher next door program. So a firefighter moves in or a teacher moves in. Well, now you've got 2 houses and they're like, well, we want to make our money. So what we're going to do is we're going to organize a street cleaning, because the alderman wants, remember, aldermen want their constituents to be rich, so they donate to the re-election campaign. So the alderman's like, hey, what's the problem here? He's like, yeah, the street looks like ass. We need to get public works out here. The street needs to be street cleaned. I don't know when the last time it was. We need city workers out here. The alderman's like, oh, goes to the mayor's office. Hey, we have this teacher, cop, firefighter next door program. It's really starting to take root between 79th and 77th Street. I need some priority cleanup. So they send out the priority cleanup. They get the streets cleaned. They get all the vacant abandoned lots mowed down. Now it looks good. In an ideal world, if you move into a crack shack and you start remodeling it and you are a good neighbor, the people around you are supposed to, the idea is that they'll be inspired to start taking care of their lawns. Look, if they weren't taking care of their shit before I moved in, me taking care of my shit ain't gonna motivate them to take care of their shit. Does my homeowners association have any insane rules? Not really. My homeowners association is basically keep your lawn mowed, keep your trash cans in, knock down your dead trees, if your houses get covered in mold, we've got this weird mold algae cross fucking thing that grows on the houses. You got to get that cleaned. If you don't take care of certain things, they'll send you a notice it needs to be taken care of. They'll send you a warning it needs to be taken care of. And then they take care of it for you and they send you the bill. I'm not a big fan of that, but it is what it is. Exactly. So we move out only so the criminals or the poor people that cannot afford to leave live there. Right. Affluent people don't want to live in crime-riddled neighborhoods. Right. That's the problem. I'll be right back. So you talk about racism in America. I remember growing up, and one of the guys in the neighborhood, I mowed a lot of lawns. I shoveled a lot of snow because I liked this idea called having money. I hated being poor. One of the guys I mowed lawns for and shoveled snow, raked leaves for him. He shocked me one day because the shit that came out of his mouth was the most racist, horrific shit I've ever encountered. He literally said one day, he was a few beers in, and he said, the first black person moves into our neighborhood, I'm moving out. What? He's like, the first black person that moves in, I'm moving out because we know how they are. Once the first one moves in, all the property values will drop. What the fuck, dude? Like, that's like you're not even being a little racist. You're being blatantly racist. Like, you're being over the top racist. If the house values are $200,000, then the people moving in can afford a $200,000 mortgage. Their fucking race, creed, or color doesn't matter. The only color I give a shit about is green. I give a shit about I give a shit about how much money you have. Hold on, I'm distracted because all of my fucking blood work is, my blood is syrup again. Okay, sorry, I needed to look at those test results. That's racist, but like level 6 racist. Yeah, that assumes you don't have 3 families sharing the house. Right, so I don't understand. I do not understand people's racism. And I don't understand why people feel the need to be racist. Congratulations on your associate's degree with honors. Yeah, the one that somebody just sent to me, the guy that says, if you're going to tax me 100% after 2 million, I'm just going to stop making money. It's damn right. You had to cut your roommate off last week for saying racist shit and disrespecting me after I asked him why he said that shit. Right. See, the problem is this. I'm not going to be one of these altruistic people that says you shouldn't be racist. Everybody has a reason that they're racist. If you were a child and you were raised in a racist family, I don't blame you for being racist because your brain is hardwired to be racist. And all the people whose immediate knee-jerk reaction is to say, no, you can learn to be different. No, you can't. You have to be, notice what I'm going to say here. If your parents raised you in a racist environment, your brain's template is to be racist. You can't just learn to not be racist. You have to be guided and taught to not be racist. And I'm not making excuses for racist people because the excuse comes in, they need to dedicate themselves to understanding they were raised in a racist family and they need to work, they need to deliberately work on fixing it. Hello there. For example, I told you, I hadn't seen my aunt in over 20 years. And I could no longer remember what the reason I hadn't seen my aunt was. So I said, I'm gonna go see my aunt. And the problem became, while I was there, driving to pick up my aunt's grandkids, my aunt decides to just go off on this fucking racist tirade. And I'm like sitting there and I'm letting her fucking spew this toxic vitriol. And she's just going on and on and on about fucking Mexicans. And I'm getting more and more and more pissed. but I'm keeping it buried. And she's just fucking being a damn racist. She's fucking racist. And finally, she stops talking. And I said, there's probably a fact you should be aware of. And she says, what's that? My kids are Mexican. And holy shit, did the car get silent? Like, I'm texting my wife, who's trying to keep me calm as I'm driving, because my wife is Mexican and my aunt is just lacing into Mexicans. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with my family? So when we finally, because remember, I didn't have my car. I'm like 25 miles from my car. When we finally got back, I addressed it. Hey, I'm not going to listen to that toxic vitriol. Your girlfriend's parents are racist. Let's see. Because they used to live in Africa, and during the war, they had to forcibly leave and lost all their properties and houses. They even had a coffee plantation. They had to leave with nothing and start over. So they hate black people now. I could get that. I could get down with that. I could get down with that. That's one of those things that I'm never saying racism is justified, but I'm saying I understand. I understand why a person would feel a certain sort of way. That doesn't mean they're correct in lumping everybody into that category, but I understand. Marxist critique of capitalism is correct, in my opinion. You don't need to say in my opinion when you're giving what is ultimately an opinion. Marxist critique of capitalism is like everybody else's critique of capitalism. It's very, very strong in some places, and it's very, very weak in some places. One of the big problems with Marx's idea is that socialism sounds great on paper until you run out of other people's money. Communism sounds good on paper until you realize you are the system and the system is you. What do I think about surplus extraction? Do you want to give me some context? Because if you say Marxist critique of capitalism is correct, then there is no surplus. Because in socialism, as we lead into communism, the needs of the state, the needs of the people are the needs of the state, and the needs of the people are dictated. So there is no surplus. At the beginning of the month, your factory gets 20,000 nails, and you're supposed to build 5,000 chairs. So each chair gets 4 nails. Unfortunately, the guy that worked at the nail factory sent more than 20,000 nails. So at the end of the month, you're putting 8 nails into every chair. The other problem is somebody at the nail factory only sent 19,000 nails. Now you're at the end of the month and you can't meet your production levels because you didn't get enough nails. And so now you got to blame somebody else. The problems with communism and socialism, because remember, socialism isn't designed to be, people keep saying we should live in socialism. Anybody who says we should live in socialism, you can stop them right there and say you don't know about socialism to talk about it. You're not supposed to live in socialism. Socialism is a transition funnel from capitalism to communism. The problem is surplus in capitalism is profit. Supply and demand is the cornerstone of capitalism. Supply, demand equals price. Supply goes up, demand goes down, price goes down. Supply goes up, demand goes up, price stays the same or goes up. Supply goes down, demand goes down, price goes down, and ultimately availability goes down. Supply goes down, demand goes up, price goes up. I'm talking about what constitutes class societies. What one class extracts a surplus value from another through wage labor. That's what enables capital accumulation. Okay, so I love this. I love the talking point. The problem you have is that capitalism isn't bad. Capitalism told you at the beginning, there are net winners and there are net losers. One of the problems with capitalism is that capitalism doesn't automatically allot for everybody to have a minimum. Socialism does, communism does, capitalism doesn't. I do agree that there is inherently a flaw where some people, due to reasons, and we'll just put reasons in a big capital R, because we can revisit the reasons, will never accumulate anything in life. However, I don't want to live in a I don't want to live in a communistic society. I don't want to live in a socialist society. I want to live in a democratic, capitalist society with social safety nets. Why? Because I can have my capitalism and make as much money as I want, understanding that we're going to shave everybody and give them a haircut to give money to the bottom. Unfortunately, what people fail to realize in communism and socialism, the ugly parts about those two systems they don't want to talk about, is that in those systems as well, if you don't work, you don't eat. Not if you can't work, you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't eat. If your job is to go to the factory from 8 to 8 and build chairs, if you don't show up from 8 to 8 to build chairs, you don't get fed that day. Now, if you're sick and you can't, they take care of you. Do I consider public health care a social safety net or socialism? Public health care is both and neither. It depends on what you mean by public health care. Public health care in the form of Medicaid, Medicare, that's a social safety net. People that no longer have the ability to work, to have insurance to pay for themselves, great. Again, there's a lot of things we're already 90 miles of bad road down the road. How do we suddenly give everybody in America free health care? We don't. Not for 35 years. Giving everybody in America is a 35-year plan because, number one, we need to train over 100,000 more primary care physicians, 250,000 more nurses, 500,000 more med techs, and 250,000 more medical admin people. And I'm not talking about hospital administrators. When I say medical admin, I mean the person that takes your results, types them into the computer, sends you the email, does the scheduling, follows up with you, receives your email when your drugs are wrong. We need those functions. You can take that function and give it to a nurse or a med tech, but then you need more nurses and med techs. The physician's assistants, I'm not really sold on PAs. I think physicians or assistants are good if they're good, but for the most part, I'd like to see PAs go right. PAs and NPs go right the fuck away. I'm not trying to be condescending to these people, but I truly believe you need a level that you've reached. You're a nurse, and a nurse is not a doctor's assistant. A nurse has their own lane of stuff. And then over here, we have a doctor. And there should be a definitive difference between what a doctor is doing and what a nurse is doing. For example, one thing that I don't like is that in this state, because my state has such a problem with getting mental health providers, a nurse practitioner who has 2,000 supervised hours can open their own practice. That's bullshit. You're not a doctor. You should not have your own practice. You are a nurse practitioner. You are supposed to be practicing under the medical license of a medical doctor. I have no problem with them seeing their own patients, having their own empanelment. Not at all. None at all. If there's a psychiatrist over them who does spot reviews. But I don't think 2,000 hours of supervision is enough to suddenly turn around and say they can open their own independent practice. I think that is literally putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and wondering why it doesn't get better. I'm generally conservative, but I'm pro public health care. I'm Canadian, and my appendix randomly, but a few months ago, was taken out free of charge, other than my high taxes. Well, I'm glad that you put other than my high taxes, because there is no such thing as free health care. You either pay for it directly, or you pay taxes that pays for it. I'm glad you put that caveat. What people don't realize, what foreigners don't understand, and I think this number is too many, but we have to be legitimate with it. There are 340 million people living in America. Now, getting the actual statistics is sometimes difficult. But of the 340 million people in America, 27,200,000 of them have no health insurance, right? However, 13.6 million of them, 50%, are in that state by choice. What this means, right, is that you have 13 million people, about 4% of your population, that fell through the cracks. I don't pay as much in taxes in 1 year as it would have cost to pay out of pocket for that procedure alone. How much do you pay in taxes a year? Because remember, I don't pay anything for my health insurance. I don't pay anything for my children's health insurance. I pay zero. Actually, I take that back. I pay $1,200 a year for my top level health insurance. They take it out of my disability pay. I went years and years and years without ever seeing a doctor paying for health insurance. I went years and years and years not seeing a doctor paying taxes. Your ortho PA is used as a tool to get the ortho to a large number of clients per day. That is the way it should be done. Right. The ortho PA should be seeing people, and then the doctor should be reviewing all of their notes. Maybe around 10,000 provincial federal tax, then a bunch of sales tax on all purchases. Okay, let me help you out. You can't really step into the argument to say I don't pay as much in taxes in 1 year if you don't know all the taxes you're paying in 1 year. I mean, it becomes really, really important to understand. If you have sales tax, you say, and then a bunch of sales tax, which means you could be paying 22,000 a year in taxes and not even realize it. Because if how much did you make last year? How much did you save? How much did you pay in tax? Well, a portion of all your purchases have tax on them. I think most people don't know how much they're paying in taxes. But here's the other problem. Why are medical procedures so expensive? Because it's for-profit medicine. If medical procedures were done, why is it the United States Air Force can send in a field hospital to an impoverished nation and we can start providing massive amounts of services, but it's not costing us tens of millions of dollars a day to run that facility? Because healthcare at its core should be cheap. It's because Obamacare, I am not talking down about the things that Obamacare did really well. I'm talking down about how Obamacare in America fucked up the system. So for example, today I went to the hospital and I had a cardiovascular ultrasound. Now, I'm going to say this test is going to cost $5,000. And the reason why it's going to cost $5,000 is because the insurance will only pay 75%. So what it really cost, right? What the procedure really cost was $3,750. But they added on $1,250 so that when they bill my insurance has agreed to pay 75%. So they get their $3,750, and then they're considered good. The problem is when you walk in as a cash customer, you're going to pay $5,000. And the reason why you're going to pay $5,000 is because if they charge you less, then that's not their rate for that procedure. So what happens to the $1,250? This is called profit. Now, my hospital happens to be adding on another floor and another facility because the hospital is only like 7 years old, and they're most of the time they're at max capacity. It took them 9 hours to admit my daughter last year when she was ill because they literally had no bed, no ward room to put her in. So they're building more wards. The problem is how we pay for medicine is bullshit. Gotta pay premium so you can pay deductible so you can pay when they fight to deny your claim even when it should be valid. Right. Like yesterday, I needed a new medication. And my insurance paid zero of it. Because the medication my doctor wants to put me on isn't a generic. And I haven't been on a generic. I haven't been on the first tier, so I had to pay for it. I had to pay for it out of pocket. Because my insurance doesn't agree with my doctor. Can we stop for a fucking second? Who the fuck at your fucking insurance company decided that this is the wrong medication without having access to my fucking medical records? Because I don't allow my prescription insurance company to read into my medical records. I took their right to do that away because because now that they said we're not paying anything for it, I'm going to contact them. I'm going to say, who the fuck made this decision? No, they have, at insurance companies, they have doctors that can't have their own practices because they suck ass at being doctors. They work for insurance companies because that's the only fucking job they can get. Or they work there because they make 6 figures plus kickbacks, plus bonuses. How can the prescription insurance company didn't see me at all? You can send clips. I don't watch clips. Sometimes I'll preview them and try to watch them. The problem becomes, how can somebody who didn't see me oh yeah, I know this one. How did somebody that didn't see me know that I need to try the generic before? Also, they should know that I don't need to try the generic because I'm already on a medication that reduces blood pressure.
Apparently,
Let's see. Why are you not showing up? Oh, okay.
I think there's a mistake on
over his insurance card.
How can I help you? So I think there's a mistake on the bill, but maybe you can help me out. We got a bill, and then we realized that you guys didn't have our insurance, so we sent you the insurance, and it looks like the bill went up.
It went up?
Yeah, the first bill we got without the insurance was $600, and then the second one was almost $1,300.
Okay. Yeah, so that the first invoice you received, that's a discount that you receive if you're uninsured. So you're not eligible for the discount since you are insured. And so the bill was $2,342.14. We billed your insurance. Your insurance only paid $1,078.85.
Can I go back to the discount without the insurance?
No, so you're insured, so you're not eligible for the discount.
If I go cancel my insurance, am I eligible for the discount?
No, sir, because we checked eligibility and you do have active coverage for data service.
Oh, I needed to cancel it before I got the service to get the discount.
You're only eligible for the discount if you're uninsured.
Okay, so I'll get cheaper health care if I'm uninsured.
If you're uninsured, you're eligible for the discount, correct?
This gentleman's daughter needed an ambulance. His bill was...
What the fuck? Like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on in our country where you get a discount? Now notice they charge the dollar amount so they can bill the insurances. You know what insurance should be? Chris Rock said it best. Chris Rock said it absolutely perfectly. Insurance should be called in case shit. In case shit happens, I get a ride to the hospital. If nothing happens, I don't get the ride to the hospital. They tried, yeah, hearing stories like this helped me understand why healthcare CEOs got murdered. Did you know when you walk in, you should have, do not give your prescription insurance card to every pharmacy around you. And I'm not joking when I say this. I do not have, Walgreens does not know that I have TRICARE for life for my insurance. I don't tell them. I walk into Walgreens. If a medication of mine is like $98 out of pocket, I'm like, hold on. I'll go into the Walgreens and I'll say, hey, I have a script my doctor can send over. I'm trying to make sure the pharmacy can fill it. Can you guys fill a prescription for X? And they, yeah, we can. What's that going to cost me? Do you have insurance? No. What's the out-of-pocket cost for that? $8. What the motherfuck? My copay at my small town pharmacy, my co-fucking pay is $98 because they're going to get paid by my insurance company and $98 out of my pocket. But I can go to fucking Walgreens and get this shit off the shelf for $8 cash. That's why Walgreens will never have my insurance information, because if I need something that's grossly fucking overpriced, I'm gonna be like, hey, Walgreens, cash sale, baby. It flips when it's catastrophic though. My stroke build, yeah, catastrophic coverage is different, but ambulance rides are stupid because they're not always covered by insurance. What I think is fucked up, I see what you said. People who do things the right way are penalized in favor of those who didn't. I think it's fucked up the way ambulance services work. If you call 911, if I called 911 right now and said, I'm having chest pain, and they dispatched an ambulance, they would say I requested the ambulance. But if I dial 911, don't say anything, and the police arrive, the police see me unresponsive, and they call for a bus, ambulance, in some states I don't pay that because the police sent me to the hospital. What the fuck? You said, I like Asmongold, but I like you better because sometimes Asmongold just says shit and doesn't complete the thought before it leaves his mouth. I think Asmongold is really, really important in every streamer's world because Asmongold has demonstrated a lot of really good things and a lot of really bad things. Asmongold is why so many people try to get into streaming because they want his level of money. Shit, you don't have any idea the good works I would be doing if I was getting the amount of money he was getting because I was paying millions of dollars in taxes. I would be doing like Mr. Beast level shit, showing up at people's houses, being like, "Oh, you need a roof? Let's put a roof on that shit." You hate that racist. You can hate him all you want, but you hating him doesn't in any way, shape, or form diminish his impact to the video game world and to content creation. Asmongold is the thing people want to become. Now, I would rather have a good conversation. I would never want to have I would rather have a conversation with 38 people on Twitch, a couple on Kick, a couple on YouTube, rather than have 40,000 viewers that are all rabble. But I would really love to have 40,000 people that are actually motivated. Asmongold went and tried to get an interview with Ted Cruz and got told he would never have the fucking pull to get in a room with Ted Cruz. But Asmongold does have the pull to get into a room with Ted Cruz. The problem is Asmongold's following isn't relevant to a state level elected official. Asmongold has enough pull to get an interview with the presidential candidate because Asmongold's demographic is across America. If Asmongold had 75,000 solidified registered voters from Texas, Ted Cruz would be interested. In North Carolina, they make you pay the insurance prices even without insurance. Insurance is a scam. They want you to pay the shit, but they don't want to pay out. Right. It's just like I'm adamantly against car insurance. The reason why I'm adamantly against car insurance is this. Car insurance is required by law to drive. Car insurance doesn't actually help you unless you know what your rights are. My daughter's car was totaled and they gave us a bullshit paltry amount for it. And I rejected it. And they said, excuse me, I said, I'm rejecting it. I want to go to the second clause. What second clause? I don't want a cash payout. I want you to find a comparable vehicle. And they're like, well, we're not going to do that. I said, yes, you are, because it's in my policy. I have the first right of refusal on the thing. You now have to go find a car with similar mileage, similar condition. And they were like, oh shit. So they went back and they said, what if we offered you $14,000? I said, I'll take that. They wanted to offer me an amount of money I couldn't get my daughter back into a car for. I don't give a shit what the car's Blue Book value is. I'm not at fault. If I was at fault, I'll take your offer because I'm at fault. But I got hit. I need a car. I need a vehicle. I don't need a payment towards a vehicle. I respect that he speaks his mind, but he doesn't say anything brilliant, which I haven't heard others say, so I don't get the hype. I'm also disgusted by what I've seen about his hygiene and living situation. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that does it for me about him. It's okay if you want to be scummy, if you want to be scuzzy, but I think when you make a big deal about cleaning your office and you find a burrito from 4 years ago, probably not good. Probably not good. I think there's a problem when, like, I'm sorry, but basic science, basic hygiene tells us you need to shower or bathe every couple of days minimum because you have bacteria that grows on your skin. You need to get clean. We also know the psychological impacts of not showering when you're suffering from things that bring you below normal. Like, for example, one of the things you've heard me say is I teach the fucks and spoons theory to people. Fucks is do you care, spoons is do you have ability. Fucks and spoons are great. I really care about this, but I don't have the spoons to deal with it. One of the things I tell people is small successes lead to success. So your alarm goes off. And this works for the same average person, but for people that are depressed and they feel like they're not amounting to anything, your alarm goes off. Within 5 seconds, your feet go on the floor and you stand completely up. You turn right around and you make your bed. You turn right around and you go into your bathroom. You turn the shower on. You go find clean clothes. You put clean clothes on the sink. You step into the shower. You wash. If you brush your teeth in the shower or you don't, that's up to you. You get out of the shower, you brush your teeth, you shave, you comb your hair, you take all your dirty laundry, you put it in the hamper. That's the start of a successful day. That may have used 100% of your spoons. That right there, you may literally call me on Discord or on the phone and say, hey, I'm standing in my kitchen and I'm trying to make breakfast and I'm completely out of spoons. And what I'm gonna say, did you make your bed? Yes. Did you shower? Yes. Did you put on clean clothes? Yes. I said, okay, well, you're already on a winning streak. I said, what's the roadblock with breakfast? Because if you tell me I rolled out of bed, I walked downstairs to the kitchen, I'm like, well, shit, you're not on a winning streak yet. Yeah, Peterson's theory of you make your bed every morning. Stringing together wins. It's a winning streak. That little change in life is sometimes all a person needs to get their barometer back over to non-depressed. If you think I'm kidding, I'm not. It is. We get the person to have a bunch of little wins, and sometimes the little wins is all they need. Sometimes they need more. Sometimes they don't. He also had some recent take about shooting kids who are illegally entering a country which is too far. I'm all for borders, deportations, but shooting kids or anyone for crossing a border is extreme. I'm actually going to disagree with you. Not on the shooting kids part, but I don't think that, I think that you have to decide how much border security you want. Because here's the interesting part. There is a difference between being a criminal and in the United States criminally and being in the United States unlawfully. And there's a big difference. If you enter the United States lawfully through a point of entry on a visa and you overstay that visa, you are not here criminally. You are here unlawfully. You are not subject to Article 3 court for overstaying a visa. You are only subject to a civil infraction of 1, deportation, and 2, denied re-entry. If, however, you enter the United States not through a legal point of entry, and so you cross the border with, coyotes, then you've actually committed a misdemeanor. That makes you a criminal. If you're the type of person who can't come through a border crossing because your criminal past in your home country is going to prevent you from being allowed in, I don't want you in my country. I don't want other countries' shitty export people. I'm sorry. We have enough criminals of our own in this country. If it was up to me, if you were human trafficking, if it was up to me, Border Patrol would have the same powers as the judges in Judge Dredd. There's a difference if two countries are at war and there's some kind of military threat, but shooting economic migrants is unnecessary. In your opinion, you call them economic migrants. I call them criminals. Because the US law states if you enter the country and through any means other than at a border crossing, you are subject to Article 3 court, which is criminal court. Now we're not arguing whether or not they are a criminal or aren't a criminal. We're arguing as to what extreme their criminal infraction is. Why are we spending billions of dollars a year? But a misdemeanor shouldn't mean getting shot, though. Really? Because lots of fucking Americans get shot for committing misdemeanors. So why are we committing different things? You can get shot while in the commission of a misdemeanor crime if you become a threat. Still a fucking misdemeanor. I agree they're criminals, but not that the punishment should be being shot. Okay, well then you tell me, an honest question. What would you like to see the penalty be? Because when a guy is caught for the 19th time this month, and all we can do is toss him back over the border, are you cool with paying taxes? Because you're Canadian. You don't have this problem. I got you. Ready? Why don't we give amnesty to all the people entering the United States illegally as long as they keep on going and go to Canada? Don't stop. Don't get off this road, but you go straight to Canada. As long as you stay on this northern going highway, we'll let you go. After a couple of years of you having 60 million immigrants in your country, you might say, our country is going to shit, and here's a problem. I'm not saying, first and foremost, they should get shot. What I'm saying is, we need to put them in the right classification. You're committing a crime. You're a criminal. You still have due process rights. However, I think what would solve a lot of this problem is if we adopted what other countries have. We catch you entering the country illegally, we put you in jail for 2 years, and then we deport you. And then we need to look at jails in other countries and say, I wonder why their rate of reoffense is so much lower than ours. Because their jails are actually a fucking deterrent. Their jails are actually a punishment. Their jails are an 8x6 cell, and that's where you stay. You get 1 shower a week. Your meals are brought to a slot in the door. If you throw that shit against your wall or at the guard, they log you as food was given. Dash, wasted. And it ain't like they're giving you a lot to begin with. Americans are our jails are punishment. Our jails are not fucking punishment. Shut the fuck up. Shut all the way the fuck up. Our jails are not punishment. There's whole fucking schools of research. There are people who get out of jail and reoffend so they can go back into jail. 3 meals a day, 4 hours of yard time, 2 hours of rec time. That's not punishment. It's such a laughable matter that our jails aren't punishment. Chris Rock even had a joke back in the 90s. If you're from a poor project, a new jail ain't that bad. If our jails were true punishment, then reoffenders wouldn't be like 95%. I want to tell you, fucking our jails are punishment. You can Google this for yourself. Federal prison on Maxwell Air Force Base. These guys aren't even in cells. These guys are in dorms. Every day they get work details. They're out in the sun. They get to exercise. They get to walk around. They get lunch. They get hot lunches. They can't even be given MREs. MREs don't meet the minimum prison standard for nutrition. So I was at places. Sweden has humane jails and they have lower reoffensive. Wow, you're gonna what the fuck did I say at the beginning of the show? You cannot cherry pick factoids to build your case. Why does Sweden have lower reoffense? Because Sweden doesn't have the fucking society we do. Like, please, for the love of God, plug your brain in with what you just fucking said. Please, for the love of God. Please, for the love of God. Sweden has a population of 10.7 million people. Sweden has a population lower than the majority of US states. I wonder why. People that commit crimes in Sweden generally are committing stupid crimes. Then they go to jail, and because your average ordinary day life in Sweden is good, you gave up shit. I mean this with all sincerity. If you're living in East St. Louis, Illinois, dodging bullets and fucking drug dealers and drive-by shootings, going to St. Clair County Jail isn't a fucking downward slope. It's an upward slope. Their life is better in St. Clair County Jail than it was in East St. Louis. But they lost their freedom. They know half the people in jail. They're in the yard for 4 hours a day. They have 2 hours of rec time. They get 3 meals. On the street, they don't know if they're getting 3 meals. So please, let's not be flippant and throw out little factoids. Let's drive into it. Sweden made rehabilitative jails. That's why their offenses are low, and they try to rehabilitate the people. And if they can't, they lock them away forever. Right. When you have a population of 10, how many? Let's see if we can get this fact. Let's see if we can pull it. Sweden, out of a population of 10.7 million, they have 11,200 prisoners. And that's all their prisoners, right? Their incarceration rate is only 106 per 100,000 individuals. So they're 106 per 100,000. The US, 542 to 580 per 100,000. Are you noticing now that it's great to do like factoid bingo? But there's a huge fucking difference. Let's see if we can get this. So the US has 1.97 million people in jail. 20% of Sweden's population is our prisoner population. We got to stop with the bullshit. You can't fix fucking society if you can't fix prisoners. As I said, King Jalan, what would I pass? Guy going to jail for 5 years, right? Guy goes to jail for 5 years. Do you have your GED or a high school diploma? No? Get that. We'll take off a year. Get an associate's degree or a tech certificate? Yes? That takes 2 years. We'll take off 2 years. 3, you're serving 2. Look at that. You're out. You're out the fucking door. Right? You're out the fucking door and you have a certificate. They used to have a program that wasn't rehabilitative, though. It was more like the US. Before then, they had a higher rate of reoffense. It lowered when they went more humane, more rehabilitation. Stop fucking conflating the words humane and rehabilitation. I don't know why you are using those as a conjoined adjective. They're not. Jails don't have to be humane to be rehabilitative. They do not. Jails can be really rehabilitated and be fucking nasty and brutal. We already know this. We already understand that we don't have to we can make things we can make things brutal and get the results we want. Joe Apico, the sheriff out in Maricopa County, Arizona, who gave everybody bologna sandwiches, kept them all in a fucking tent city. But why should they be, though? Why make jails so terrible when they don't have to be? Because they do have to be. That's the fucking problem. Jails have to be. I don't know why your chat's not transferring over. YouTube might have shadow banned you. Let me tell you why jails, if they're not fucking brutal, aren't working. Because jail has to be a deterrent. Jail has to be a place you don't want to go. In the military, we don't like to send people to jail because it means we wasted all their money in training. So we will do a lot of fucking shit to try to rehabilitate a member and bring them back to the straight and narrow. But let me tell you, you know what the best fucking motivation for all the other young, dumb airmen in my squadron was? Every fucking day, we had a guy that was doing cocaine and dealing cocaine, and when he got sentenced, he didn't get sentenced to Leavenworth. He got sentenced to 60 days incarceration at our base. Now, let me tell you about that. That becomes the biggest pain in the fucking dick ever, because that means our people every morning have to go at 4 o'clock in the morning and be at the fucking jail, the B-Dock, which is where the lockup is. Every day for 60 days, I have to have people from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. assigned for all of his rights. His right to PT, his right to medical appointments, his right to 3 meals. But I found out every day where he was going to be working, and I sent all the young airmen, every last fucking airman. I'm like, he's currently mopping all the tar up out of the vehicle garage. Every fucking airman that we have is going to walk through the vehicle garage to see him in an orange jumpsuit pushing a mop. And I used to do little feedback sessions with the airmen. And some people are, well, that's demoralizing, that's humiliating, or why are you making everybody go looking at him? Because then they all fucking know that's your future. He didn't get to sit in no fucking cell all day. 60 days of hard labor? Oh, motherfucker, I got the days that we didn't have anything for him to do. I took a page out of my father's playbook. Between breakfast and lunch, you're gonna fucking dig a hole. And then you're gonna eat lunch. And then between lunch and dinner, you're gonna fill the fucking hole back in. Well, why can't I just sit in my cell? Because you need to earn that fucking meal. You gotta pay for fucking what you did. You know what the kid did at the end of the 60 days? He begged and pleaded if we could get him back on active duty because he learned his lesson. We had a bunch of fucking kids, airmen, who said, that shit scared me straight. The kid that's late all the time, you know being late's a crime, right? Those of you that don't get it, who aren't military, being late's a crime. Being late is a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I gave you an order. That standing order is you report your ass to work at 6 a.m. 6:01, you're a fucking criminal. 6:01, you're a criminal, if I so choose. 6:01, missed formation. Unauthorized leave. Do we do it? No. Do we reserve the right to do it? You bet your ass. Was saying how the real punishment is how the USA prison system is divided violently by races. The really big problem that we have is that our prisons, because of civil rights lawyers and bleeding heart liberals, our prisons can't be effectively managed and run because the prisoners have so many rights. We need way too many guards. For example, how many prisoners are involved in a prisoner transfer? 3. Minimum. 1 guard that does nothing but watch shackles be put on the prisoner. 1 guard that puts the shackles on the prisoner. And the guard that's outside in the control room that's opening all the doors that the guards don't have keys to. Yeah, you can do a prisoner transfer with just 1 prisoner, but to move a prisoner is 3 people, a minimum of 3 people to do it safely. That you got a guy whose lawyer shows up. Well, he has the right to instantaneous access to his lawyer. So now you got to pull 2 guards off something else to escort this asshole to meet his lawyer. I'm not saying you shouldn't have the right to consult your legal counsel. You got to make a fucking appointment. Hey, can I come by today at 3 o'clock? Did I say, I meant officers, sorry. Can I come by at 3 o'clock? I need a 3 o'clock appointment with my guy. Yeah, sure you can. Prisons, I told you this shit. This is the bullshit I had. Guy got sentenced to 52 weeks of domestic violence class. If you're not aware of this, you cannot get over being a domestic offender, being domestically violent without rehabilitation. Here's why. Whatever the fuck is wrong with you that makes it okay for you to act in a less than loving manner towards your spouse or your kids is that same thing that I told you. If you grew up in a household that was domestically violent, you're 3 times more likely to grow up domestically violent. You're also 3 times more likely to grow up and be on the opposite end of the spectrum. And then everybody else is left in the middle. Like, you grew up, you're fucking normal. How you grew up normal, we don't fucking know. We haven't put enough research into it. Guy got 52 weeks of the Duluth model, which means he's gonna see the Duluth model twice because it's a 26-week program. The guy did 6 or 7 weeks with me. And then he walked in and he said, yo, Mr. J, can I talk to you? I said, what's up? He's like, can you please make sure that my attendance is logged for today? I said, well, I log your attendance for every day. He's like, are you going to be at the courthouse on Friday? I said, yeah, I am going to be there on Friday already. Why? Do you need me to speak on your behalf somewhere? He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm going to go in front of the judge. My choice was 52 weeks of this class or 52 weeks in jail. I said, well, you made the smart decision. You took the class. You'll get rehabilitated. You'll be better. You'll be a better man for it. He said, no, fuck that. I didn't want to be in jail. If I went in then, I would have been in jail until the middle of the summer. He's like, my cousin works at the jail. He told me they're full up. Okay. He's like, I'm going to try to get 7 weeks credit off the 7 classes I took, which will lower how much time I have. And then what happens every year around here is the jail gets full. So I'm gonna ask the judge to put me in jail, and then I'll pop back out in 6 weeks because first in, first out. Like the Nicole Richie shit. They prison overpopulation, so they don't put you in there for your whole sentence. Well, what the fuck? This guy's figured out. This guy fucking spent 7 weeks earning money so that he could pay for his apartment, pay for his car notes and everything, because he's gonna go to jail and be in jail for like 5 to 9 weeks. Because he knows all the assholes that get a DUI that get sentenced to 60 days are gonna push him out. That's the problem with jail. If we're gonna build a surplus of anything, I would love to build a surplus of jails. You got more asshole criminals, put them in fucking jail. If they want to rehabilitate, they want to go to GED class, they want to go to trade school class, they want to take college classes, as long as they're not a violent offender, we'll let them do that. And then we'll take time off their sentence. I also think that when you get out of fucking jail, it shouldn't be like, we should not have an automatic step out of, we should not have an automatic step out of you're paroled and now you're just free. We should have a step down of you're paroled to a communal living house so that you get a job, so that you have to piss in a bottle at a moment's notice, so that you get your life in order, so that you take some fucking classes. I don't think we need to go from jail to citizen in one step. You mean jail or prisons? Well, you're right. Jail and prison aren't synonymous, but we need more jails and we need more prisons. In my state, if you're serving 364 days or less, you're in the county jail. 365 or more, and you go to state prison. Which is why a lot of guys take a plea bargain, because they know if they take a plea bargain and they get under 1 year of jail time, they only go to jail, not prison. You're absolutely right. Kentucky did a lot of reforms that helped us. Kentucky had to make a lot of reforms. If we're just being honest, Kentucky was a shithole of a state for a long time. Kentucky has a lot of places that are really good, really wholesome, salt of the earth people. And then Kentucky's got a lot of fucking places you don't want to drive into without a fucking armored battalion. Like in Kentucky, there's the fucking joke that if your car's not reliable, don't drive on certain highways because you're going to have a 100-mile stretch where every fucking town is a fucking crack town. And they're like, yeah, but there's good towns nearby. Yeah, and what those towns do is they don't have a fucking off-ramp because they don't have the drug traffic coming into their town. They have a 20-minute fucking rural highway to get onto the expressway because they don't want an off-ramp because they don't want that bullshit riffraff. If it takes fucking looking at a Rand McNally map to get into the small town, people aren't going to come there. Why does anybody realize why on a lot of expressways why is there always one shit heel gas station right on the off ramp? Because those gas stations are run by drug dealers and drug distributors. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with prisons because once you get out, no one wants to hire you. Like, I get it, but ideally jail should suck, but should also mold you into a completely different person. 100%. What I think, your private records, once you have completed your jail time, in my opinion, you have paid your debt to society. Give me 1 second and I'll talk about the ID. Okay, the jail should also have the ability to do that. Professionals like sex and psychological and physical therapists, trade professionals, all linked up. Yeah, but here's the problem. Who do you get to work there? I'll jump back to your point though. Who do you get to work there? because I worked at a prison for all of 4 visits. I don't like the fact that there's a cage in the corner of the room. No, they hire them, but who they're hiring is generally, for the most part, not the best and brightest of their field. My classroom, the door was here, and over here, there was literally a cage, right? And as I was teaching, all of my prisoners were shackled to the floor. In this cage is a button that's going to bring everybody fucking running. The instructions I was given is if at any time I believe a prisoner has slipped their chains out of the ring on the floor, I immediately put myself in the cage, lock myself in it, press the button, and stand in this back corner back here. Now, why the fuck would I want to get involved with a situation like that? Hold on. What you're fucking telling me is you bolted these guys to the floor and you're not 100% certain they're going to be bolted to the floor? No fucking thank you. No fucking thank you. I also had to stand in the cage while they were bringing the prisoners in and while they were taking the prisoners out. For my safety and security. I'm sorry. I don't want to deal with that. You think your messages will bring block because they used the term for a collection, a group of individuals working together as a group? Maybe. What Next just said, make $65,000 in a jail or $160,000 in private practice. You're going to get a handful of Mother Teresas out there that are going to take the $65,000 to work in the jail. The rest of the people that you get working for the jail are going to be the people who can't get a job anywhere else. They're going to be the bottom feeders. Let's be honest. I should be making $65,000 in private practice and $165,000 at the jail. Because that's where we need the best and the brightest, fixing the problems of society. And I'm not saying that we should give up on them. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that if you're already in the jail, right? If you're on a life sentence with 0 chance of parole, 8x6 cell, once a week a shower, fuck off. There's 0 point in ever trying to do anything with you. You're in jail for the rest of your life. Well, what about their rec time? What about their victims' rec time? What about their yard time? What about them? What about them? They let them out with the city people and work trucks. They do yard work in my neighborhood. Okay, keep in mind, you're talking about those are jail inmates. Those are weak offenders. I guarantee you the guy doing yard work in your neighborhood isn't a lifer on a triple murder charge. The white collar criminals, they roam with city workers. Those are good programs. They help people do their thing. The problem is that all costs money. I want you to think about it this way. Your tax money is paying for them to get out of their cell and go do work with the city workers. Maybe you're okay with that. That's where we should have people teach and offer a program for continued education after their job is, but they do. Okay, I'm gonna stop you and I want you to hear what I'm saying, okay? Because I don't think you're getting it. I have a master's degree in education. I was a Catholic school teacher. I wanted to do things to make the world a better place. I am not going to go into a fucking prison to teach when my life is in jeopardy being there. I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Not for the piss poor salary that I was making. Because, for example, I taught one night a week at the prison and I made $60 for the night. I taught one night a week at the college and I made $1,500 a month. If I can have the job teaching one night a week at the college for $1,500 a month, or I can teach at the prison for $240 a month, I think I'm going to take the job at the college. So who do you get going into the prisons? The people who either A, are Mother Teresas, which there's not a lot of, or the people who can't get the job anywhere else, so they take the job they can get. I was teaching the DV program, the pretrial diversion program for DV offenders. I charge $75 an hour to teach that. A guy came in and underbid me at $25 an hour. Right? They want me to now cut my rate to 25. I said, no thanks, I'm not interested. The guy that they brought in washed out. Your wife's an RN, she went to work for the prison, she was paid $58 an hour, and she quit because her boss was a narcissistic sociopath who put other people's lives in danger. The inmates didn't bother her. Okay, dude, then she was at a minimum security prison. Unless the prisons in your state are unlike any other prison in the other 49 states, in which case we should be... There's minimum security prisons and there's maximum security prisons. You keep talking about minimum security prisoners. Most minimum security prisoners don't make anybody's life a hassle because they want their good days. What's a good day? You have a 300, let's do 2 years, because we're gonna put you in the actual prison. You have a 730-day sentence, okay? So this is your first day, this is your last day. If your first day is a good day, you get credit for this day and this day. You get credit for this day and this day. Right, but what you're doing is you're adding information that's completely irrelevant to the gambit and the spectrum. You're like, but these people over here. Yeah, but you're not giving me the rest of the details. You're like, my wife works at a prison. Cool, what's the name of the prison? Is it a minimum security prison? Because if it's a minimum security prison, I guarantee you the people all want their good days. If they want their good days, like, for example, I don't think we should have multiple classifications of prisoners in the same prison. I don't think that we should have different levels of offenders on different blocks. I think this prison should only be for individuals incarcerated for 7 years or less. But why don't we do that? Because that means we have to have a prison for 7 years and less, 8 to 15, 16 to 25, and 25 to life. The guys that are in there for 25 to life, some of them, believe it or not, they don't give a fuck. Some of them want to be in solitary as often as possible. So they'll victimize whoever, the first fucking staff member they run into, they'll victimize to get thrown back in the hole. What are you gonna do to them? Give them more time? They're already serving a life sentence with zero chance of parole. That brings up another very Machiavellian theory of mine. Why do we have life prison sentences with no chance of parole? Why? Why don't we just fucking execute those people? You're not eligible for parole for 125 years. The first day you are the first day that you are eligible for parole is 125 years from now. Nope, executed. 5 o'clock, City Hall, a short stop and a sudden drop. Or a sudden drop and a short stop. Anecdotal experience then I gauge the totality of reality. Anecdotal experience is great because it leads to empirical data. It leads to empirical research. But at the same time, we have to understand, if prison isn't a deterrent, like, why don't people... Well, let me back up. What's the penalty for smuggling drugs into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Execution. The penalty for... And it's not a friendly execution either. The penalty for smuggling narcotics into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is beheading. And yet, there are still dumb motherfuckers who bring drugs into that country. How many more people would bring drugs into that country if the punishment wasn't execution? I do have something on your point. She worked at a Western State Hospital, a psych facility, state funded. The cops would constantly bring violent offenders there after an arrest because the jail didn't want to take them in. So act crazy enough and you don't get put in a place with a cell and cuffs around here. Yeah, you malinger. Very common, very, very common thing. And see, that's my problem. If you have a violent offender, we need state-run criminal correctional facilities. If you're a violent offender, we throw you in a fucking padded cell, but all the people there are trained to handle violent inmates. My uncle got a concussion. My uncle is a mental health provider. He got a concussion. He had to retire early because of his traumatic brain injury. He, due to his concussion, he sunsets really early in the day. So he's got, like, he has basically dementia. So he's got to be in the house before the sun goes down. Otherwise he gets lost. Like, they have to tether this motherfucker to, like, the chair and shit, because he'll just walk off. The guy that fucking gave my uncle a traumatic brain injury didn't even get charged with a crime. What? What the fuck? Fuck that. You attacked a mental health professional because they put you there instead of putting you in jail. Now we're gonna put you in jail in the cell, and we're never gonna open the fucking door again. You don't need a fucking key to a door if the fucking door is never gonna be reopened. Congratulations. 8x6, this is where you're gonna be for the rest of the time. Oh yeah, see, she was in constant danger, no security. The guards were there to patrol the grounds, not allowed to interview with the patients. Right. And that's it. See, that's what pisses me off. That is the cobbling together of 50 years of fucking bad rules, bad regulations, and bad laws. Because one guard put a patient's face through a window once. Now the guards aren't allowed to interact with the inmates. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. To safely take somebody down requires 4 times their body weight. So if that person is 300 pounds, you need 1,200 pounds of people. You got these triangle-shaped mats. They generally can Velcro right off the wall. It's meant so that people aren't bashing heads into walls, but they Velcro off the wall because you use them as they have these little loopty handles on the side. You create a triangle with them and you push them into a corner. And then when enough people get there, you try to get them on the ground, and this thing is like a tent. You get over them and then you lay on them, and then you let them exhaust themselves out. Again, fuck that. My wife is 5'1". Yeah, stop wasting the tax dollars on the people, and I'm gonna change your message a little bit. Stop wasting the tax dollars on the people who don't deserve it. We hereby sentence you to 1,000 years in jail. If you die before you serve your 1,000 years, we're going to charge you with attempted escape and add 100 years to your sentence. If you happen to be born and reincarnated, we're going to instantly arrest you and put you back in jail. No. What we're going to do with that motherfucker, we're going to say, you've been sentenced to 1,000 years in jail. Therefore, down the steps, city square, fucking hung. What makes me even more pissed is when the people admit to sick shit, right? There was a pastor who just got convicted of molesting a 5-year-old girl. First of all, you don't need you don't need Joe Judge Wapner on that one. You just need Papa J and the Shillelagh. Papa J and the Shillelagh gonna roll down and beat the shit out of you until you're dead. I was reading the story. Pastor sexually abuses a 5-year-old girl and his wife helped. Put me in, boss. All I need is for the company that makes these to fill this with concrete and send me 1,000 of them. I will get my workout in. I will get my cardiovascular health in shape by beating the fuck out of assholes like that. Then some real judges gives them only 2 to 5 years with the possibility of parole in 1. Yeah. Let me not lose Karthos' statement. I think we should start sentencing people to power generation. They have to ride a stationary bike with a dynamo on it, and they can generate X amount of power for a power grid. They can't be free. You want a person there for life? Give them 20 trillion megawatt quota. That way we get some use out of them. They pedal or they die. Yeah, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I truly believe if we brought back the chain gang, right? If we brought back the chain gang, a lot of fucking asshole kids would be scared straight. The Byzantine Empire might have had a fucking a good idea. Merciful blindings. Hey, asshole. You're a career criminal. We're going to just go ahead and blind you now. I agree. When I first moved to our country out here, our neighbor went to school with my wife, a few years older, but he got arrested for manslaughter. Did 7 years because he got high, drove home, killed a 12-year-old girl, and injured the mom in the accident. He was out of prison 6 or 7 times, kept getting out because of his dad's money for stealing equipment. I talked to the man running for DA, and he said no matter how much meth you get caught with here, you only get a max of 3 years. Yeah. That's the fucking problem. That's the problem. You killed somebody. You got high, you killed somebody. Goodbye. You made a choice. Goodbye. Yeah. We just can't fix that problem. We have to fix the wide... Like, I'm gonna be honest, guys. I've told you I'm an ex-addict. I'm an ex-addict. I was a benzodiazepine addict, I was a narcotic painkiller addict, and they were both prescribed to me by the military. I understand why addicts are the way they are, because I am one. You take the drugs so you don't feel bad. You start by taking the drugs so you feel good. And then it becomes you take the drugs so you don't feel bad. Later, Sparky. People that don't get rehabilitated, like I told you, I had the guy was on heroin and crack. Take the guy to the drug facility. He's like, he literally says on his intake paperwork, he's like, I'm just here to break my crack addiction. I'm never gonna give up the heroin. What? You're doing heroin? You're doing heroin, and you're only gonna give up the crack. You know what? We have one for recycling. You know what kept me and my friends from being asshole kids? The fear that our dad would bury us in the backyard and knowing our mom would be the one digging the hole. What stopped me from being an asshole kid was the fact that everybody in the neighborhood knew, and then you couldn't do shit because anytime you were around, everybody stared at you because you were the asshole kid. Now, luckily, I didn't have that problem. I was friends with some of the asshole kids, and then I realized I didn't like being stared at, so I stopped hanging out with the asshole kids. We're in a really shitty spot in life. We're in a really shitty spot. I don't think there's a good answer. I don't think there's a good solution. What I do know is that I got to get out of here because I got to eat. And I had my medical testing this morning, so I couldn't eat before that. And I'm fucking starving. And I'm getting hangry. It looks like this PC now doesn't have any of the problems of the other PC. I do have to fix one thing with the capture card, and I'll be back Monday, and then I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to have a little bit more of a show polished and ready. And I found the show ending, so I'll see you guys Monday.
I wonder if the organic meat sack that runs this channel knows a lot of these sponsors don't sponsor us anymore.
They were longtime sponsors.
Paid? Is any of this sponsorship money for Gale, Daisy, the Chaos Fund?